Let's get peppy. Welcome to part 2 of the PEPmas, PEPsgiving, Peppy New Year crossover special. Man, I'm feeling peppy, Lockie. Let's not do the fast read thing because there's 3 episodes.
Whoa.
There's 3 parts to 1 episode.
It's a PEPmas miracle.
Yes. You can go back to, if you don't hear my fast read, you can go back to the beginning of part 1. We got too much to get on with, Lockie. We're joined today by the young phenom that is Beau Glass, and we're joined by Melina Wicks. We're interrupting her maternity leave, so thank you very much.
I can't believe she came back from maternity leave. Thank you to Beau for being an absolutely fantastic improvement on the Chaz Unleashed with Lockie. I didn't get to thank you in person, so I'm thanking you this way. Mm-hmm. And thank you, Melina. Also, congratulations. And the third part, thank you, me, for giving you the opportunity, Lockie, to listen patiently as I rant angrily about the rule of law in America. Get ready for some hms and woes, guys. The punters, they love that. It's ratings dynamite. Very quickly before we start, bit of correspondence. A lot of people have been asking about various people who are not on this festival, seen as this PEPstival, since we seem to have everyone, almost everyone on Earth. Like, Richard Cook is not there. Yeah. It's not because I didn't ask. It's not because he's not wanted. He hasn't gotten the sack. Richie is working on his book. He has a deadline like now. So you'll be able to read, probably during the holidays, the results of why Richie isn't here. I'm always going to ask Richie. He's one of my best friends. He's free. No, he's brilliant. It'd be nice to have him back. It would be nice, and I can't wait for it. But now, and it's not just him, Dr. Emma. We've asked everyone. Yeah, people, they've got lives. They can't always turn up for PEPstivals. And Dr. Dave is, of course, very sick. Get better, Dave. The implication that being on PEP means you have no life is also untrue. That is definitely untrue. And the other correspondence, I made a mistake in part 1. That's an instant correction for you. In part 2, I'm correcting part 1. I went Trump about MRIs, talked about radiation. I was corrected by many people pointing out that MRIs do not have radiation. Or at least not ionizing radiation. They've got radio waves, but that's not the same thing. They're not dangerous. The reason why you might have not many MRIs is because they're expensive and lots of people need them. It's not, you don't just waste MRIs. It's not because you're gonna get cancer because of MRIs. Ross said, "Hi Chaz, just a point of pedantry on Trump's MRI. MRIs don't use ionizing radiation. Yes, there is no radiation risk. Medical tests that you don't need carry risks in other ways. But that's a more complex discussion for another time." Love it. Just put it to one side. I would also challenge the inference that having an MRI means a doctor is looking for something, e.g. cancer. Non-medically necessary whole-body MRIs are becoming more and more fashionable, particularly amongst alternative health communities. I guarantee RFK Jr. has had at least a couple. No good doctor would ever order this, but no good doctor would let Trump dictate their letters about his health either. I think that's a fair enough point, Ross. Thank you very much for the correction. Let's stop messing around, Lockie. Let's get straight to Beau Glass after the white flash, and I will be seeing you after Melina. Till then, stay peppy. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Chaz. This is part 2A of our PEPmas PEPsgiving Odyssey, and we are joined by none other than the PEP cult hero, Beau Glass. Beau, for those who have no idea who you are as a PEP cult hero, why don't you remind people who you are? What's going on?
My name is Beau Glass, and I am a lowly law student at the University of Sydney. But as with Dr. Dave, when I PEP, I do not speak on behalf of that institution. I speak only on behalf of myself, even though I don't think the University of Sydney really cares that much about my opinion anyway, to be honest.
Well, we do.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Beau came by when Lockie was away in America before he got that terrible fake tattoo, which is already washed off. Anyway, and Beau was dropping by just to say hi, and we just put him to work and got him to basically do Lockie's job for a week. And it turned out that Beau likes to talk about the law. And
I like to talk full stop.
well, I basically just bore all our PEP guests about the law over and over again, just force them to listen to me talk about immigration and civil liberties and stuff like that. And Beau was into that. So he's going to be back a lot, I think.
I hope so.
But anyway, he was you were very much appreciated by the Peppers. So I thought, why not bring it back?
Well, that was going to be my grateful, very quick grateful.
Yeah, sure,
which was, I'm grateful to you, Peppers, for all of your kind words in the comments and all the correspondence. I was reading through and I felt very, very loved. So thank you to all the Peppers for all your kind words.
While you're thanking the Peppers, there's one more thing you should thank the Peppers for. Cue it, Lockie.
Just unleash with Beau.
Seamless. The work that was put into that. The hours.
When you said that I had my own sting, I was like, wow, there's so much thought and love has been put into that. And it's true. So much thought and love.
It really was. I assume that's from Dan, is it, Lockie? Yeah, Dan, you've done it again. We're getting a little bit off the straight and narrow here. So,
we don't have that much time.
So why don't we turn our attention to what actually probably was very close to the biggest story of the week, and that is Jim Comey is out on the street. He is free to stroll along the beach and play with the seashells and write detective novels and just generally be tall and lanky like he likes to be.
Yep.
Tell us what's going on, mate.
Yeah, so as Chaz alluded to there, we've been talking a lot about Letitia James, a lot about the indictment that was brought against James Comey, and he was... This is for allegedly lying in his testimony to Congress.
Yes.
And no one really wanted to bring this indictment because it's so ridiculous. I'm sure you can go back for all the preludes in the previous PEP if you want more details. But so no one else wanted to bring it because they thought it was ridiculous. Eric Siebert, the previous interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, resigned over this because he said it was ridiculous. And then in comes good old Halligan.
That's right. I believe we contractually, as American politics commentators, as you are today.
Thank you.
I believe we do have to mention the words beauty queen every single time that we introduce Lindsay Halligan for the first time. So yes, she was a beauty queen. She was also a lawyer.
An insurance lawyer.
That's right. Not a prosecutor. She literally had never prosecuted a person in her life.
And as we will get to very, very shortly, there's a reason why prosecutors learn how to prosecute. So that they don't do at least 15 of the things that Lindsay Halligan has done.
Just before you go on, because I did leave the last time we talked about COVID, like you said, people can go back and listen to the old PEPs. I think the very last one with Mari, 241, I think I talked about this. But I did leave a few threads untied.
Yeah.
And let me just tie them up quickly before we go on. And that is because the reason I left them untied is because I didn't realise that the whole case was going to disappear within days. I thought we'd have a few more pops at it first. And in particular, you guys probably don't know this. When I think that something's a bit vague, I will often not even talk about it because I'll think there's going to be more information in 2 days or 3 days. Why burden them with speculation and rubbish? I'll just wait. And now we're never going to find out about it. So I just should let you know where we're at when this case
did all this research. She doesn't want to go to waste.
It's a little bit like that. But yeah, I'm a completist. I've got a bit of a problem. Okay, first of all, the first thing I need to complete was, like Beau just said, there were Judge William Fitzpatrick found 11 different ways that Halligan practiced serious misconduct in her conducting of the grand jury to get the indictment. 11 different ways.
That's just the grand jury as well.
That's just the grand jury. We haven't started the case. The grand jury is just to get the indictment, just to get out of the starter gate. And she had made 11 different mistakes, all of which were potentially fatal, right? The most serious suggestion of the misconduct was that the prosecution may have handed in to the judge an indictment that was not the indictment that the grand jury voted on. The way it's meant to work is the grand jury is meant to vote on charges, and a majority of the jury say, yeah, we approve of those charges. You've met the very low standard to get this into court. And then those charges are then, that's the indictment, which then goes to court, etc. And there was a suggestion that maybe, since there were 3 charges originally and the grand jury rejected one of them, which is unusual in itself, it really shows that Halligan's stuffed up. But
grand jury, it's a very low bar.
Oh, let me tell you how low the bar is. This is just off the top of my head. There were like 130,000 attempted indictments in America in 2024. You know how many didn't get returned?
It's going to be a shockingly low number. Do you want me to guess?
Yeah, take a guess.
I would be willing to guess it's like 100.
6.
Okay.
It's not many. But in 2025, some of them belong to Lindsay Halligan.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there were 3 charges originally. She didn't get one up because that's so embarrassing, because that never happens. Yeah. She thought, apparently, that she just get rid of one of them and just use the other 2. Now, to be fair, it's not like she changed the other 2. Like the jury did vote on them word for word. But still, she changed the document, removed one of the indictments, and then submitted that as that's what the jury voted on. When the grand jury had never even seen it. It was a foreman had seen it and one other grand juror. The rest had gone home. Right? Well, at least that's what she said. This has never happened before. There is no precedent for this. So we don't know what's meant to happen.
I wonder why there's no precedent for this kind of behavior.
I mean, she didn't even need to do that. Like you could have just handed in the indictment that didn't get up.
Yeah.
But just for PR reasons, it was embarrassing. They didn't do that. But yeah, theoretically, if you hand in the wrong indictment, that's the end of the case, and you go to jail.
Yes.
Right? That's bad news. Right? That's fraud.
Yeah.
Right? But in this case, it seemed to be more incompetence than fraud.
As is often the case with this DOJ.
That's right. They might have let her get away with it. We don't know. We're never going to find out. Well, hopefully we're never going to find out. But that was the worst thing, where we were at.
Yeah.
The next day, Lindsay Halligan comes out and argues that actually that had not happened, even though literally the day before they said that had happened. They admitted it to the judge. And then they said, actually, backsies.
I believe it's in jurisprudence, it's called the nuh-uh defense.
That one there, yes. They said you could prove it as well by simply looking at the transcript of the grand jury proceedings. And the transcript said, the judge asked, so you voted on the indictment that has 2 counts? And the 4-person of the grand jury said yes, later adding that it was the very first count we did not agree on, and the count 2 and 3 were then put in a different package, which we agreed on. So they say, well, when you look at that transcript, that's very much insinuating that the whole grand jury saw that. Now, that apparently all happened in 7 minutes, which seems unlikely. But let's leave that aside. Let's say that they did all see it and we were misled. We were misled by them, Lindsay Halligan.
Yeah.
Who testified to the judge one thing and then said, we looked at transcript, actually we're wrong. Why didn't you look at the transcript before the first time you testified? It says a lot.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, that's where we were at with that particular issue. We don't know whether the grand jury handed in the indictment, voted on the indictment that got handed in or not. That would have been adjudicated by the judge somewhere down the track. But we just left that dangling. Halligan was also accused of hiding exculpatory evidence. I didn't mention that last week because we didn't know exactly what the exculpatory evidence was at that point in time. But there were apparently, I'll read you the quote from Comey's filing. We don't know the details about this, but this is what the Comey's filing says. Based on the government's discovery to date, there appears to be numerous pieces of highly exculpatory evidence that, given its tendency to undermine the existence of probable cause, Miss Halligan likely did not present to the grand jury, and without which the grand jury would have been left with a deeply misleading picture of the case. The exculpatory evidence includes, for instance, Richmond's multiple statements in government interviews denying that Mr. Comey ever authorized him to serve as an anonymous source about the Clinton investigation while employed with the FBI, which is the actual thing that he was accused of lying about. So the only witness they have said, you have no case.
We should just clarify. What exculpatory evidence is for anyone who doesn't know what that is. Exculpatory.
Yes.
Lockie's like, yeah. Exculpatory evidence, in a nutshell, is just evidence that tends to exonerate the accused. It tends to prove that they are innocent.
Yes.
So prosecutors. So unlike normal civil lawyers, normally a lawyer is under no real obligation to present evidence that is against their case.
Yes.
So if you're suing someone and then you find something that helps them, you don't have to necessarily present that evidence. You can, within ethical bounds. A prosecutor is not the same. A prosecutor works for the government. They are supposed to be working for the administration of justice.
Yes.
Right? So a prosecutor, this is the case in Australia as well, by the way, they are under a duty to present exculpatory evidence, that is evidence that goes against their case, to the court.
Especially in a grand jury where there is no defense lawyer.
Yes,
you're the only one talking.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's true in Australia as well. And what's called an ex parte hearing. If you don't have the other side there, the duty is even higher to make sure that you're being fair.
Yeah.
And so this is prosecution 101.
Yeah, and so in this case here, where you've got James Comey being charged with lying about a situation that is X, and there's only one witness, and that witness says he isn't lying about X.
Yeah.
That's important information.
It is important information.
That you should tell the grand jury. Yeah, and apparently she did not.
Yes.
And also, she didn't apparently mention that Mr. Richmond's FBI special government employee paperwork indicated, remember, that Comey was charged with lying about the fact that he used him as a source when he was at the FBI. That Richmond's FBI special government employee paperwork indicated he, in fact, was no longer an employee as of June 30, 2016, which is before the date that any of the emails or text messages they have were written.
Kind of important.
Also very important. That was literally impossible for Comey to be guilty of the charge that they were accusing him of, as far as the evidence goes.
And yes, I mean, we're going to get now to the whole case being thrown out, but this is like at least 3 layers down in terms of wrongdoing that already could have the entire case thrown out.
Absolutely. None of that was very promising for the prosecution, you could say. And also, by the way, there was a suggestion that Halligan may have made 2 fundamental misstatements of the law to the grand jury. They were redacted from transcripts of the case.
What?
The misstatements, because I don't know why the judge redacted them. I would love to know what they were. Lots of people are speculating about what they were. We don't know. Yeah. They were redacted. Okay, so I'm not going to speculate, unlike the entire legal press. I am not. You can look it up if you want to know what they're speculating. I'm not going to do that. I'll just say that the judge thought they were pretty important. Okay, so you can't misstate the law when you're explaining the law to the grand jury in important ways. Suffice to say, the judge thought this case was in trouble. That's where we left it, and then this broke.
Yeah, so then what happened was this week, Clinton appointed Judge Cameron Curry. Pretty much said that Lindsay Halligan was not even validly appointed to begin with. Now, this is, this is step 1. So when we were talking, or when you were talking last week about, if we get over this hurdle, then there's this hurdle. And if we go, then there's this hurdle. This was hurdle number 1.
Yes.
And they tripped at the very first hurdle. Yes. And that's because it's a very important hurdle. Which is that if you're not validly appointed, then you can't do any of this.
Yeah, like if I walked into the court and just signed the indictment and said, James Comey, you're going to jail, they wouldn't care. They wouldn't care about what I had to say because I'm not an officer of the court.
Yes.
And in this case, apparently neither was Lindsay Halligan.
Exactly.
So, okay, should I talk through the logic of why they disqualified her?
Go for it.
Yeah, okay. And notice I said she, even though it's Cameron, she's like Cameron Diaz, just so you know. This is the appointment clause. I'm going to read it out for you. Actually, Lockie, can you bring this up? Section 546. This appointment clause, it starts off with A, the Attorney General may appoint a United States Attorney for the district in which the office of United States Attorney is vacant. So Pam Bondi can appoint someone when it's vacant, right? So the East Virginia, this district, the original person just resigned because there was a new sheriff in town. Pam Bondi appoints a replacement as Eric Siebert guy.
Yes.
Right? No problems. But look at C. It clearly limits this appointment power. A person appointed as United States Attorney under this section may serve until 1, someone is validly confirmed They don't say validly confirmed. I'm just paraphrasing.
This referring to Senate approval.
That's right. Yeah,
Yes.
Thank you. Or 2, the expiration of 120 days after appointment by the Attorney General under this section. Okay, so you get 120 days free appointment if you're the Attorney General. You can appoint whoever you like for 120 days. After 120 days, you got a problem. What happens then? Well, hopefully that's giving you time to confirm someone through the Senate.
Well, that's the reason the 120 days is there.
Yes.
It's not there so that you can appoint someone who's unqualified.
Yes, no, it's not.
They weren't making this law so that you could have someone unqualified. They were there. It's there so that someone's resigned. We need to organize a Senate approval process,
Yeah, which takes 3 months.
It takes some time.
Yeah.
The Senate's very busy and very slow.
Yeah.
Let's give them time to do. That's why it's there.
Exactly.
That motivates this whole issue.
Exactly. Now, during the 120 days in the East District of Virginia, they didn't bother. They didn't try. They just let it go. And it's not just in the East District of Virginia. It's all across America this has happened. This is actually the 4th time under Trump this year that exactly the same thing has happened where they've let the 120 days run. They had someone that didn't get didn't get confirmed by the Senate, and then they ran into this next bit of the legislation, which is after 120 days, if an appointment expires under subsection C2, that's 120 days, the district court for such district may appoint a United States attorney to serve until the vacancy is filled. Okay, so, and note the legislation gives no other options. That's the only option. The district court can appoint someone. When they say district court, they don't necessarily mean one court. They mean the entire district court. So, which is why, in the case of, remember Beau said every judge in the Eastern District had already commented on it. It's not like they're just gossipy when they just talk about stuff in newspapers. They had all weighed into who they thought should replace the guy who was there after 120 days.
And it was Eric Siebert.
It was Eric Siebert.
Who was, he was pushed on. So he was appointed by Halligan, was not confirmed. By Halligan.
By Bondi.
He was wouldn't it be that'd be a whole different issue.
Yes. That'd be 12 problems rather than 11 problems.
He was appointed by Bondi, not confirmed. 120 days expired back in May.
Yeah.
He was kept on by the district court. So that's okay. That's fine.
All the judges got together. They said, no problems. We like this guy. Yeah. He's competent. He's fine.
Competent enough.
Yeah. Just keep him there. That's cool. And for a while there, that was all right. Until Trump got wind of the fact that Eric Siebert was not going to be prosecuting Letitia James or James Comey because the cases were crap.
Yeah.
And this guy was vaguely competent.
Yes.
And so then Trump disappeared him. Okay, so that leads us to our issue. You have this legislation that says the only way you can have an attorney there, a US attorney there after 120 days, if they haven't been Senate confirmed, is if they're approved by a district court. But the district court approved guy just got the sack. So what do you replace them with? Now, the judge said that Section 546 is unambiguous. The text and structure, in particular, make clear the appointment power shifts the district court after the 120-day period and does not revert to the Attorney General if a court-appointed U.S. attorney leaves office before a Senate-confirmed U.S. attorney is installed. They can't just appoint another one. They got one shot for 120 days, and that's it.
And this makes complete sense because otherwise, as I'm sure you were going to say anyway, if you could essentially sidestep the district court, you'd say, 120 days. Let me now get a new 120 days with another person.
Yes.
Maybe that person comes in for one day and then drops out. Now let's bring back the first person for 120 days. It makes no sense that would be what the law is.
Yeah, you would never need to get Senate confirmed anything ever, which defeats the whole purpose of the Appointments Clause. Exactly. That's the exact argument that the government is using. The government's saying, no, we can just keep on doing it over and over again. No problems. Yeah, the 120-day clock resets every single time. No problems. Now, here's the thing. If you strain your eyes a bit and you hang upside down and you pull out a coat hanger and you twist it around, you can maybe extrapolate that reading. Like textually, you can maybe do that.
Maybe.
But it doesn't make much sense because if you could do that, then not only does it just violate all sense of the Appointments Clause, but it makes no sense for that provision about the district court because they'll never use the district court.
That's true.
So why would the legislature, if they intend that to happen, put in a completely unnecessary clause that you're never going to use?
Yeah.
courts presume you don't that legislatures aren't stupid and they're not going to do
Which
that.
is a bold presumption.
It really is, and becoming bolder by the
day.
That's right. But yeah, but Curry said, yeah, I just think we need to make that presumption, and this doesn't make sense. So she just got rid of it, and she's not the only one. Like I said, this is the fourth time this has happened this year. It's happened in other districts. In fact, one of them happened before Bondi appointed Halligan. So she should have known this was coming. Yeah. But she didn't. And so...
she didn't care.
Maybe. But that's where we're at. And they're going to appeal. There's no precedent here other than the district courts this year. So we don't know what's going to happen. The Supreme Court, they could do anything. They could do anything. We have no idea. So it's possible the Supreme Court, then they'll probably be weighing on it sometime in the next 3 or 4 months, I'd say.
Alito will get up, do some crazy hypothetical, and then we're going to be back on PEP and just be like, Alito, what are you doing?
You're far too young to be this cynical. You listen to too much PEP.
But I've had 10 years of Trump in the media. It's aged me.
Yeah. Oh, just imagine how old I am. Anyway, so yeah, that's where we're at. We are waiting to find out if the Supreme Court's going to cop this or not. And so that's basically the legal technicals.
Yep.
Do you want to keep on going on this in this area? What are your thoughts about this kind of thing? Anything you want to share?
Yeah.
Anything I missed?
I mean, I just wanted to bring back to the Senate appointment issue.
Yeah.
Like, when I was here the first time, we were talking as well about how this Trump administration has the record number of withdrawals from Senate nomination, and that's because they don't want to put them in front of the Senate and then have them voted down.
Yes.
And I found that quite an interesting point because, we kind of see all of Congress at the moment as just being complete Trump sycophants, just completely obsequious, not standing up, not having any backbone. But it's quite clear, or maybe they're just too incompetent to care, but it's quite clear that Pam Bondi did not want to have to put Halligan before the Senate, right? Because there's a very reasonable path here, a very reasonable legal path to getting Halligan validly appointed.
Yeah.
Just put her before the Senate.
Sure, if she's great.
Right?
Then,
If she is who they say she is, I have a Karen Levitt quote of, this is the most qualified person for the job. If she is in fact the most qualified person for the job, put her before the Senate.
Yep.
Let the Senate ask her questions. The Senate hopefully will be reasonable, vote her in, and then she's validly appointed and you don't have a problem.
And then after you do that, put up the least qualified individual. She's the most qualified individual. Put the least qualified individual on SNL and let's all have a good life.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, you're right. They can just do what they're meant to do under the Constitution and get the Senate to approve this. And if the Senate won't approve it, then pick someone who's not a hack.
Yeah. That's the whole point of Senate approval.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, a few sort of random legal issues with this. Number one, Curry wrote, I will grant Mr. Comey's motion and dismiss the indictment without prejudice. Now, for those who don't understand what that means, without prejudice means that you can bring the indictment back again. It's not necessarily dead. If it's with prejudice, it's see you later, you're never coming back. Without prejudice means it's potentially rescuable. So we shouldn't be assuming these are all gone for good necessarily. Like the media is assuming. They shouldn't be assuming that because it's without prejudice. The second thing is there is a real issue for Comey on the statute of limitations. Letitia James, they can just bring that indictment back tomorrow if they sort out the illegal appointment issue, right? Yeah. Actually, I'll tell you what. They can theoretically, but they won't. And the reason why they won't is because part of the reason they're desperate to have someone like Halligan is because they're never going to find someone that district courts will approve of.
Yeah.
Who will take this indictment. That's the reason Halligan's there in the first place.
It's almost like the law is there for a reason to stop this kind of thing from happening. Almost. One might think.
Yes. But anyway, let's say they find an individual who's prepared to indict Letitia James. They can bring it back tomorrow. No dramas.
Yeah.
Comey, maybe not. Because recall the original indictment only got in under the statute of limitations by a few hours.
Yes.
Right? They're messing around with 2020 testimony. The statute of limitations is 5 years old.
Which the 2020 testimony referring back to 2016.
Yes, there was some serious gymnastics going on there. But the point is, the 2020 is gone as well now. So the government's very keen on a statute called Section 3288. Whenever an indictment charging a felony is dismissed for any reason after the period prescribed by the applicable statute of limitations has expired, a new indictment may be returned in the appropriate jurisdiction within 6 calendar months of the date of the dismissal of the indictment. So if you're unlucky and something goes against you, there's some technical ruling for whatever reason, and you're now past the statute of limitations, as long as you were there originally with the statute of limitations, you can bring another indictment. You're allowed to do that. And so the government's gone, see, that's cool. We're out of statute of limitations for James Comey, but we can bring it back because of that section. Curry disagreed. Curry said an invalid indictment cannot serve to block the door of limitations as it swings closed. She's saying because the indictment in the first place was garbage, it's not that there was a technical problem along the way, it's the initial indictment never existed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, then you can't, it might as well not even exist for the purposes of the statute of limitations. So you missed it, sorry.
Yeah. I find this really interesting because, as you say, the statute uses the word indictment, and then they're looking at this and be like, "Oh, it's an indictment. It doesn't matter." But it really begs the question: what actually is an indictment? And this is a very interesting question because what you were saying before of, if I just walk in and go, I'll sign that. That's not an indictment. That's a piece of paper. Yeah. Right. Right. So what separates an indictment from an ordinary piece of paper is the legal power that supports it, right? And that legal power ultimately must be vested in someone who is validly appointed. So if you ask me, the word indictment must be read as valid indictment, right? An invalid indictment, in my opinion, is not an indictment at all. It's a piece of paper.
That's what we ask you. The problem is they're not going to ask you. They're going to ask Alito Joe.
It'll be like, a piece of paper. If we look at it in a certain way, it's origami. It looks like an indictment.
Yeah, so once again, no precedent. No one's ever done this before. It's going to be up to the Supreme Court. They're going to make that call. We have no idea what law they're going to make up, but it's coming. The Curry has made up her mind as well. She's on the same side as Glass J, but we will find out one way or another. I mean, her quote was, "A valid indictment insulates from statute of limitations problems any refiling of the same charges during the pendency of that valid indictment. But if the earlier indictment is void, there is no legitimate peg on which to hang such a judicial limitations tolling result." And the other loophole that's floating around is the special government employee loophole. Now, Attorney General Pam Bondi saw this coming. She saw this coming a mile away, that probably because it happened 3 times before, this issue. And so she tried to make Halligan bulletproof by not just having her as the US attorney, the acting US attorney, but also as this court case approached, she also made her a special government attorney. Yep. And she backdated it to just before the indictment to say, well, if she's not the US attorney, she's at least a special government attorney. So she's there in some official capacity. She's not just like Chaz. And yes, she did use my name. She's not just like Chaz. She has an official role in the court. So it's the indictment's still cool, even if she's not the US attorney. And Curry did not have a bar of that either. She said, although the Attorney General has the power to appoint subordinate officers to assist her in the discharge of her duties, the government has identified no authority allowing the Attorney General to reach back in time and rewrite the terms of a past appointment. You can call that the Marty McFly clause if you wish. There's no Back to the Future on appointments. Once again, he's going to go to the Supreme Court. Yeah.
Well, I find this one a bit more interesting because, for those who don't spend their time reading statute, I don't necessarily recommend it. Retroactive application is a thing, right? Like there are laws that say that, you can say, oh, this actually happened 3 months ago, right? There are laws where you can use the Marty McFly technique. Yeah. It's just a question of if this is one of them. And I don't know if it is. Supreme Court will decide.
You don't have any theories? We'll see?
Well, I mean, it may say...
What would Glass J say?
You got to stop. I've just started as a clerk in a law firm, and you know, if someone there listens to this and hears you calling me a judge, they're gonna think I have the biggest ego. You got to stop.
That's your new nickname. Jared's new nickname is Reasonable Jared. Your new nickname is Glass J. Okay. All right. What does this mean? Bad news for the prosecutions, obviously. Halligan was there for a reason. Like I said, she's the hack that they needed. You can tell Bondi knows they're in trouble, though, because they're trying to keep Halligan anyway, despite all the things I've just said. Like, straight after the ruling, they stopped Halligan signing documents because those documents were invalid when she's signing them. And they were getting her first assistant to sign them instead, who is official. So that's okay. But then they changed their mind. And Bondi said after a few hours, we've made Lindsay Halligan a special US attorney, so she's in court. She can fight in court just like she was, and we believe we will be successful on appeal. And I'll tell you, Lindsay Halligan, I talked to all of our US attorneys, the majority of them around the country. Lindsay Halligan is an excellent US attorney, and shame on them for not wanting her in office. Shame on them.
Clearly they haven't been listening to PEP.
Clearly. So yeah, they're even still calling her a US attorney, even though the judge has said she is not an acting US attorney. Every single thing she's been doing since this ruling is going to be found to be invalid, but they're still doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Because they're just that stubborn.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting decision from them.
Well, I mean, they're hanging their hat on the appeal, essentially.
Yeah,
Like,
they
they're hoping that eventually this will be overturned and then all of this will be reinstated effectively as valid.
I would cynically argue that they're trying to build pressure on the appeal.
Okay, that's... Yeah,
by just having
true.
more and more and more riding on it.
Yeah.
Going, hey, judge, you want to screw that up?
Yeah.
This beautiful piñata that we've built, this legal smash cake. Don't put a hammer through it. It's beautiful. That analogy can die. He's going to get appealed to the Supreme Court sometime before July. I don't really have anything else to add on this. Do you have more to add on this, Coach?
Well, I mean, I think I want to move on to other stuff before we run out of time.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I think this whole framing that Carolyn Levitt and Pam Bondi are trying to frame it as, oh, she got off on a technicality. And I find that really dangerous.
Yeah.
Right? They're trying to say, oh, this is a technicality, that judicial activism. This is, I think a quote was that this is unprecedented action from a judge. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll just say that is a quote. I don't want to say I think it's a quote. That was a quote. That is unprecedented action from Carolyn Levitt. And this really is dangerous because it undermines the judiciary. It undermines their ability to do what they are constitutionally empowered to do, which is to interpret and apply the law and make sure that the government is not, able to act in authoritarian and despotic ways.
Yeah.
And it's really, really dangerous what's going on.
It's an interesting word, unprecedented, because it's not like the judge didn't cite a precedent.
Yeah.
She cited quite a few precedents, and there was a really interesting precedent she cited. Was it about Trump and Eileen Cannon? How about that?
Yeah.
How about that? This is the exact principle that Eileen Cannon used to get Trump off the obvious charges he was guilty of last year in Mar-a-Lago, the documents in the bathroom case.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a bit cheeky to be
Very
saying
cheeky.
it's unprecedented. But anyway, why don't you talk to us about the next case? This is a bit more fun, a little less topical.
Yes. Let's talk about Texas.
Yes.
Everything's bigger in Texas, especially the dissents.
Oh, yes, that's the case.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just to provide a bit of background, to remind the PEPers how this whole fiasco began. The Republicans' House margin is very, very thin.
It is.
And this has been a big issue. That's what allowed for the Epstein pressure to be built because they only required four?
They had 4 Republicans.
Only required 4 Republicans to defect. So this is a big, big issue for Trump, and he's looking at the midterms, and he's looking at 2027 and 2028, and he's not happy because he's going to be facing impeachments after impeachment after impeachment. So he wants to do anything that he can to try and protect the Republicans' House margin.
Yes.
Now, earlier this year, Trump started talking about trying to ask Texas to redraw their congressional maps. A very unusual move to do at this time, considering it's halfway between censuses. Normally, they only redraw directly after the census. To draw this new gerrymandered map that would give Republicans 5 extra seats. And there's a quick clip that shows him saying this.
On Texas, how many more seats do you want the Republicans to draw?
5.
And then what if California, New York, Illinois, and other blue states
Yeah, well, that's
decide
okay too, but 5. I think we get 5. And there could be some other states. We're going to get another 3 or 4 or 5 in addition. Texas would be the biggest one, and that'll be 5.
for a complete redrawing of the congressional map ahead of next year?
Just a very simple redrawing. We pick up 5 seats.
And where
we
in
have a couple of other states where we'll pick up seats also.
I didn't know he was such an expert on map drawing.
So he is, I wouldn't use subtle as a word to describe what he was asking for. You know, partisan gerrymandering is done by Democrats and Republicans, but you know, you don't normally have them say 5. This is I want 5. Yeah. So partisan gerrymandering is it's terrible, and it essentially presents voters with a false choice in the majority of congressional races, but it is constitutional.
Yes.
Which is not a good thing, but it's still constitutional.
Yeah, no, look, you're not the only Jay. It can be Richard Jay. I am absolutely shocked that the Supreme Court is one of their worst decisions. That they have basically found that any kind of partisan gerrymandering, they use the phrase non-justiciable. They cannot review it at all, they say. Not our business, they say, because it's too vague, it's too imprecise, there's no objective measures of what's gerrymandering and what's not. That's not true. None of that is true. But that's what they say. And so they're just letting it go wild. It's just the Wild West. You can just do what you like. Well, actually, it's not true. The one thing you're about to get to, the one thing you cannot do is racially discriminate when you gerrymander. But for partisan purposes, just go hog wild.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so as you were alluding to, racial gerrymandering is not allowed. Racial gerrymandering is prohibited due to the 14th and 15th Amendments, which were post-Civil War, post-Emancipation Proclamation amendments that were designed to give freed slaves and African Americans equal protection to be able to vote. So racial gerrymandering, not okay. Then we get to the Texas case. So after Trump effectively asked for 5 extra seats, you had the DOJ write a letter. Writing a letter to Greg Abbott. You want to?
No, I'll just jump in just to say that after Trump said 5, I want 5, Texas said no.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, Texas said no, we're not going to be doing that. And the reason they said no is because it's always risky to gerrymander. Because it can always, there's what they call a dummy mander, where it can backfire on you and you can end up losing more seats than you think. Because every time you gerrymander, you spread your votes thinner and thinner and thinner. If there's a 5-point swing against you, all of a sudden these seats that are 53% or 54% Republican, you lose them. And so then Abbott didn't want to take that risk, which, by the way, is looking smart now. After November. But anyway, he didn't want to take that risk, but Trump wanted him to take that risk. And so he got his Department of Justice, the civil rights leader and the civil rights chief in the Department of Justice, Harmeet Dillon, to write them a letter basically pressuring Texas, saying, no, we want you to do this right now, and if you don't, we're going to sue you. So, which is, you can take it from there.
So the reason why, the substance of this letter was not just, because the president said I want 5. The reason why this letter was written was allegedly because there was a case called Petaway last year, which related to something called a coalition district in Texas, and essentially said in the letter, the case of Petaway has said that these Texas congressional districts are not allowed because they're now unconstitutional coalition districts. That's not really what Petaway said, by the way. But that was the pretense, and that's why we need you to redraw.
Yeah, the phrase that they had in the letter was coalition districts run afoul of the Voting Rights Act and the 14th Amendment, and that they're using this Pedaway case as that. And just to be clear, coalition districts are when you have, say, for instance, 30% Hispanic, 30% Black. It's a majority-minority district because you've added up the minorities, right? And there's nothing wrong with having coalition districts, but they were saying that you can't have coalition districts because it's a Pedaway case. But what the Pedaway case actually said was that coalition districts can't be considered majority-minority districts, and that the 14th Amendment can't force you to have a coalition district. You can have a coalition district, but you can't be forced to do it by the 14th Amendment, and you can't call it a majority-minority district. That's what it actually said. The problem for the Department of Justice is they've had about a third of the department sacked, and they're the best third, right? They're really not seeing their best these days. 107 career Justice Department senior managers have left, have 320 career leadership positions, right? And they are the ones who are fair. So you've got a lot of hacks, and you've also got an overstretched department with too much work to do. So they make mistakes. And this is a classic example where they misinterpreted the case and asked Texas on the basis of a falsity to redistrict. And then, you might have observed what the problem is here. The problem is they're asking Texas to change their districting based on race. Yeah. They're saying you can't have coalition districts. Remember what we just said before? You can do partisan gerrymandering till the cows come home, but if you start discriminating based on race and drawing boundaries on race, that is illegal. Yep. And that is precisely what the Department of Justice asked Texas to do. Yes. That's why we have a problem. Yeah. And we have even more of a problem because then Texas officials stood up and started saying that's exactly what they're doing. They said yes because we got a letter from the Department of Justice to start getting rid of coalition districts. And so that's what we're doing. That's why we need to redistrict. For instance, this is Greg Abbott arguing publicly to Jake Tapper that this is what they're doing.
One thing that spurred all of this is a federal court decision that came out last year. By the way, a case that was filed by Democrats. The federal court decision that came out last year said that Texas is no longer required to have coalition districts. And as a result, we had drawn maps with coalition districts in it. Now we wanted to remove those coalition districts and draw them in ways that, in fact, turned out to provide more seats for Hispanics.
Well, that's not really. I mean, you're doing this to give Trump and Republicans in the House of Representatives 5 additional seats, right? I mean, that's the motivation, is to stave off any midterm election losses.
Again, to be clear, Jake, the reason why we're doing this is because of that court decision. Texas is now authorized under law that changed, that was different than in 2021 when we last did redistricting.
If they'd just gone and gerrymandered, that'd been fine. No problems whatsoever.
He should have just said yes.
Yeah, and Jake Tapper was giving them, was throwing them a bone, saying, say this is legal, please. Yeah. And Greg Abbott was saying, no, I'm not going to say it's legal. I'm going to say that we're doing exactly what you're not allowed to do. All right, so now I didn't do that research. That was brought to me by the judge in this case, okay? Because we're now talking about the LULAC case. Yes. Where 2-1, by the way, Trump-appointed judge, Jeffrey Brown, wrote a judgment saying, sorry, guys, you've racially gerrymandered. I don't know how you've racially gerrymandered, but you have. For some reason, you have racially gerrymandered when you didn't need to. But the proof is everywhere. You said you were following this letter, which is asking for racial gerrymandering. You told Jake Tapper that you were doing this. I got that directly from the judgment, from this Jeffrey Brown guy. This Jeffrey Brown guy, let me read you what he said about the letter, by the way. It's challenging to unpack the DOJ letter because it contains so many factual, legal, and typographical errors. Even attorneys employed by the Texas Attorney General, who professes to be a political ally of the Trump administration, describe the DOJ letter as legally unsound, baseless, erroneous, ham-fisted, and a mess.
That's That's a lot of adjectives.
It really is. So you're getting the vibe that Jeffrey Brown is no friend of the Democrats.
Yep.
But he was saying this just seems like all the important people are saying we racially gerrymandered.
When they didn't have to.
Yeah, and if they're admitting it, then that's illegal. Yep. And so therefore, I need to strike this entire map out and go back to a legal map, which was your 2021 map. I'm getting rid of the gerrymander. That was, in a nutshell, what Jeffrey Brown had to say. Do you want to take it from there?
Yeah. We should also say that this map was signed in the special legislative session. The map was not even on the special legislative session agenda until then the letter comes through.
Right.
And then they put on... The session was supposed to be about flood relief.
Wow. That's different.
Which is... And yeah. And if we go back to then, if you remember, the Democrats fled the state.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the PEPmas as well, because I know you're on top of it. Yeah. The Democrats fled the state to deny the Republicans a quorum. Yeah. But anyway, as you're saying, you know, Judge Brown is looking at CNN and saying, well, look, Jake Tapper gave him an opportunity to say, yes, it's partisan. And he said, no, it's racial. Yeah. Surely that's the most important thing.
And by the way, Judge Brown, he should know what Pettaway said because he was in the majority of Pettaway. It was his case.
Anyway. Yeah. So the thing is that the most important thing here is legislative intent. Like, what are they actually doing?
Right.
So the most important thing here is legislative intent. And here I think, you're looking at the evidence, but actions speak a lot louder than words. And even though it's stupid that Greg Abbott got up and said, oh yeah, we're doing this for racial reasons, it's clear that this was all motivated from Trump. Right. Yeah. It's quite like, it doesn't take a genius to realize that the reason why they are suddenly motivated to take a very extraordinary step and redistrict here is because Trump asked for it. He said 5. Right?
Yes,
he said
did.
5.
Yeah.
I don't want 4. I want 5.
He didn't say 5 Latinos.
No.
He said 5.
5 seats. Exactly.
Yes.
And so this is what the dissent then gets into. So Judge Jeffrey Smith, he is a Reagan appointee. He's been on the bench for 37 years. He was not having a bar of it. No. So, I mean, he started by being very upset directly with Judge Brown and saying, you didn't even give me a chance to respond, really. Like, you know, you tried to shut me out of this entire case.
And to be fair, he was actually not in the judgment. Like, it didn't appear. Normally, the dissent would be the end of the judgment. And the reason for that, I should explain that. It's not because Judge Brown is just a psychotic, nutcase, and he hates the dissenter. It's because of something called the Purcell Principle. And the Purcell Principle is a Supreme Court doctrine which says when you're getting close to an election, you don't mess with electoral laws because it's confusing to everyone. And the closer you get to an election, the less you mess with a law. Now, we're getting really close to the deadline in Texas for running for particular districts, and they're still messing around with the district boundaries. And so Brown said to him, I don't mean to shut you out, but because of Purcell, I've just got to get this out there as soon as possible. Yeah. And I mean, you'd think Jeffrey Smith would understand that. He acted like he didn't understand that. But Brown is right about that. In fact, it actually helps the dissent. Yeah. Because right now, after this judgment comes out, we're using the old map. The 2025 map's been thrown out, right? Yeah. But the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to appeal to the Supreme Court. And you need as much time as possible to appeal to get the 2025 map back. Otherwise, because of the Purcell Principle, they're not going to change the districts anymore, right? So it's actually in the interest of the dissenter for them to get the judgment out as fast as possible so there's the chance to appeal. Yeah. The dissenter Smith did not see it that way at all. He was just offended and put out about the fact that he felt he was misled and he felt that there was deception and manipulation and they were just ignoring him and trying to freeze him out.
Yeah. So if we look now into the actual substance of the dissent itself. Yes. So Justice Smith, Reagan appointee, he thought it was very, very clear that irrespective of what Abbott and other Republicans are saying, the map was being drawn for partisan reasons.
Yes.
Right. So when you consider the context of the House margin, these are all different points that he pointed out in his dissent.
Yep.
Look at the context of the House margin, Trump's explicit request to redistrict, and the unashamed obsequiousness which has infected the Trumpian cult of personality, which is the relic of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
You can see why he would think this.
Yes.
Yeah. And like in law, and especially I think when you're dealing with politicians, you should always look at actions. Actions speak a lot louder than words.
Yes.
I think.
To be fair, I mean, let's think about what happened in this context.
Yeah.
You had all the Democrats running away. Exactly. They weren't running away because they were worried about
Latinos.
Yeah, about Latinos. That was not the case. Newsom didn't gerrymander California in response because he was worried about the distribution of black votes and Latino votes in Texas. It was clearly partisan. No matter what anyone said.
Let's just be pragmatic.
No matter what anyone's justification was into a cable news host, we all knew what was going on here. It was Democrats versus Republicans saying who can cheat the best. That's what was going on.
Exactly. And so we don't need, like Judge Brown, he's looking at this and he's like, oh, well, look at everything they said. Yeah, they did say that, but, let's look, let's read between the lines a little bit here, right? And so Justice Smith, he had the goods,
he did,
right?
He did have the goods.
So the guy who drew the map, Adam Kincaid, he is a classic Republican operative.
He is.
I'm reading from your notes here, just so you know.
It's all right. They're great notes.
And the dissent spent about 20 pages going through his justification for the way he drew every single electorate in Texas. And Kincaid, he mentioned 4 criteria for the changes.
Yep.
He said, every pickup opportunity had to be a district that President Trump carried by 10 points or more.
Yep.
Every one of those seats had to be carried by Ted Cruz in 2024. And Governor Abbott had to carry them by a decent margin. You'll notice these are all Republicans. These are all partisan questions.
Yes.
It wasn't, they had to have this percentage of the Latino vote or of the black vote, right? And so what he's clearly looking at is what the map drawer is. What was the Republican margin, right? How can I shift this Republican margin to maximize the partisan advantage? It's quite clear. That's the person who made the map. That's the actions. That should be what we should be focusing on rather than the words on the cable TV.
If I can quote Jeffrey Smith about Adam Kincaid's testimony is credible and irrefutable. Beginning in the Panhandle and moving clockwise, he went district by district and described his map drawing process with painstaking detail and without any notes for 2 days. And by the way, he's not lying. It's a very boring part of the judgment. They take us through every single step, and none of it's racial. His testimony is methodically detailed, and he is a solid witness, especially on the key question of intent and race. In no uncertain terms, Kincaid stated, "I don't think it's constitutional to draw maps based off of race." He unequivocally said, "I do not use race as a proxy for partisanship when drawing a map. When given the opportunity to do so on both direct and cross, he had a perfectly legitimate and candidly partisan explanation for his every decision." And that does seem to be the case. And that's the guy who drew the maps.
Yes.
His intent was very, very clear. And can I add 2 critical points to this?
Please do.
The first of which is, they didn't get rid of all the coalition districts. So if Brown is correct that they were desperately trying to remove coalition districts for racial reasons, then why did they leave a coalition district?
Like, you had one job.
That's right. So that really undermines Brown's case. And the other thing that really, really undermines it is that Kincaid started drawing the map before they sent the letter. So
kind of gave the whole game away there.
Yeah, so this whole, that letter sent them on this racial odyssey. No, Kincaid had already begun drawing the maps according to the process that he detailed. So what I'm saying is, honestly, I don't like gerrymandering.
No.
But I think the dissent is right.
Yeah.
I just think that I wish that this was illegal. But it's not.
Exactly.
According to the laws of America, this is a very legal
the silly
gerrymander.
laws of America.
The silly Billy laws. Yes.
All right, let's move on to something, the fun stuff in this judgment. So, Chazzo, when you told me to read this dissent, your adjective of choice was volcanic.
Yes.
You described it as the world's most volcanic dissent.
Yes.
And I think that describes it perfectly.
Thank you.
So, CNN called it a broadside. MS Now called it berserk. Politico called it Jerry's Jeremiad.
Oh, wow.
Alluding to the biblical lamentations of Jeremiah.
Very good.
Very nice. This thing is unhinged.
Yes.
So we have been looking at the substance of it, which is great. Let's let's have a look at some of the more spicy stuff.
Sure.
So just to remind all the peppers, this guy, Justice Smith, he is a federal court of appeal judge who has been on the bench for 37 years.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to go through a few of my favorite lines.
Okay.
He starts off with the line, "Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night."
Okay.
Wild opener.
Yes.
He closes, by the way, with the line, "A bumpy night indeed." Great.
He's referring to It Happened One Night, a classic romantic comedy from the 1930s for those who care.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. He calls Judge Brown's actions blatant judicial activism, pernicious misbehavior, and unlawful aggrandizement. These are already insanely unlawful. Sorry, not insanely unlawful. Maybe they should be. Insanely personal attacks,
Yes.
considering judges normally, at the worst of times, call each other my learned friend.
That's true. That is true.
Like, even when they're being really passive aggressive about it, they'll say, "As my learned friend contends," and it's like, but at least they say "my learned friend," right? So he also says, if there was a Nobel Prize for fiction, Judge Brown's opinion would be the prime candidate.
Yeah, that's becoming less respectable. Less
Exactly.
respectful all the time.
Like, you're kind of undermining your arguments at this point.
Yeah.
Anyway, I now think it's time for a special judicial
Stats Nugget.
This is pretty exciting. It's our first ever judicial stats nugget.
Normally judgments don't have enough stats in them to warrant a stats nugget. Judge Smith says, "I dissent 16 times."
Wow, he really
in his
dissents.
judgment. And this isn't like, I went Command F and just found the words "I dissent." This is like as its separate paragraph each time. Like, he says, a whole ramble, and then he goes, "I dissent."
Yeah.
Ramble. I dissent. He said it 16 times.
Yeah, it's kind of an incantation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
He personally attacks Judge Brown by name no fewer than 278 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
278 times. Yeah. And best of all, each time he addresses a certain piece of evidence, which he thinks Judge Brown didn't like or didn't address properly, he says 9 times, he says the line, "Judge Brown won't tell you that. I just did."
Snap.
Better get some aloe vera for that judicial burn.
Yeah. Look, I think my favorite stat, and I wasn't going to call a stat nugget on it, but my favorite stat on this is you said 16 times.
16 times, yep.
This is a dissent. It makes sense that you dissent a lot.
Yep.
I mean, even in a full paragraph form. But while that's very important in his dissent, it's not as important as the 17 times in which he cited George Soros. in that he kept on suggesting that everyone behind this case was in the league of George Soros.
Yeah.
And George Soros was funding everyone, and he was sitting there going, I don't think you should use the words George Soros in your judgment once if you want to be taken seriously.
Yeah. This is something you expect from an unhinged Fox News guest.
Yeah.
Not from a judge of 37 years.
It's a Tucker Carlson monologue.
Exactly.
Not a judgment, but 17 times in the one judgment.
Yeah.
So, look, he's not making friends.
No.
and if you're a lefty if you're a liberal who's turning up in his court in a month's time, and I mean, are you feeling like the judge who cited Soros 17 times in judgment's going to be impartial in your case?
Yeah.
I suspect not. Like, I think he's undermining not just this case, but every case that he's a part of from now on.
Yeah.
Even though I agree with him.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think he's going to win, by the way, because the Supreme is going straight to the Supreme Court immediately, and the Supreme Court, Judge Alito has already flipped the maps back because that's Judge Alito.
That's what he does.
But I'm sure that people like Coney Barrett are going to agree with me on this one because he's textual, and this is very textual and very clear. So those people celebrating the end of the gerrymander, it is back. It's going to be back for sure.
Exactly. I mean, when we discussed this case very briefly a couple of days ago, we both independently found that we agreed with the dissent.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I'm a relatively liberal person, liberal in the American sense,
Yes.
not liberal in the Australian sense.
That's why I say lefty, because the confusion. Yeah. But anyway, yes.
Just thought I would clarify that. And this dissent is not good for democracy.
No, it's not.
No.
It's not good for the justice system.
No.
Because there's an escalation happening here, and this dissent is a key part
Yes.
of the escalation. It means the next crazy person's going to go further. It's going to be 34 George Soroses. It's just going to keep on going.
Exactly.
In 5 years' time, someone is going to submit a dissent that's going to be literally the word George Soros written over and over again. There'll be nothing
George
else.
Soros won't tell you that. I just did.
But anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that given that partisan gerrymandering is legal, but racial gerrymandering is not, it's very understandable that judges, they would want to distort the evidence or, selectively choose evidence, like looking at what Greg Abbott said as opposed to, looking at what the map maker said. It makes sense that they would want to look at that to effectively shoehorn it into a justiciable issue.
Yes.
Right? Instead of something that is, as you said before, non-justiciable, that they can't even comment on it. But that is not the role of a judge, right? The role of the judge is to interpret the law and the fact, and then apply that law to the facts. So I think I agree. I think I agree with Judge Smith. I think this is judicial activism, plain and simple. And I think if you look past the unhinged Soros references and the mild burns, he actually makes some excellent and pragmatic points.
Yeah. Having said that, the strange thing about this is, like I keep on saying, Judge Jeffrey Brown is a Trump-appointed judge.
It's very
so I don't know what's going on. He's not in the pocket of the Democrats.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason,
He feels compelled to save it in some way.
I got no idea
Yeah.
what's going on.
Very,
Maybe he just
very,
hates
very
gerrymanders. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to do one quote that actually is quite a principled quote from Judge Smith, the dissenting judge. He says, and I agree entirely with this, he says, Judge Brown could have saved himself and the readers a lot of time and effort by merely stating the following. I just don't like what the legislature did here. It was unnecessary, and it seems unfair to disadvantaged voters. I need to step in to make sure wiser heads prevail over the nakedly partisan and racially questionable actions of these zealous lawmakers. Just as I did to the lawmakers in Galveston County and Petaway, I'm using my considerable clout as a federal district judge to put a stop to bad policy judgments. After all, I get paid to do what I think is right.
And I'm your learned friend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then, even despite the incredible sarcasm, Judge Smith undermines himself by saying, there's this old joke, what's the difference between God and a federal district judge? Answer, God doesn't think he's a federal judge.
Whoa!
And then he goes, only this time, it isn't funny.
Well, he's right about that. We can agree on that as well.
Yeah. So he makes good points, but then he goes and undermines his credibility by talking about freaking George Soros and having, the vibes of a crazy conspiracy theorist who listens to the My Pillow guy for the majority of his media diet.
I guess he got his dissent out. He was worried that people weren't going to pay attention to his dissent. They certainly paid attention.
True. That's true.
But that's good for one ride. And next time it's going to go.
Yeah.
It's going to be more expensive. Mm-hmm. Anyway. Beau, thank you so much for stopping by
Thank you.
and indulging me on legal chat.
I hope the Peppers enjoy the legal chat too. I know it can be dry to those who don't indulge in legal chat, but I hope we bring it to life a little
Look, we had fun. That's all that matters. Thank you very much, Peppers. I will now throw to, I believe we're going to have a little bit of Melina Wicks. See you on the other side of the white flash. Stay peppy. And we're now heading to the home straight in this PEPmas, Peps Giving, Peppy New Year, Pep whatever you want to call it special at the end of 2025. And we are into the big guns now. We've got two left. We've got John Barron coming up in the next part. And right now, we've got possibly an even bigger gun, Planet America's own Melina Wicks. Hello, Melina.
Hello.
How's maternity
No
leave
one's
going?
bigger than John, but thank you.
How's your maternity leave going?
Good. Yeah, it's fun. Got a cute baby. Not sleeping great, but I feel like it could be worse. Like on the sleeplessness scale, I'm like a 4 Chazzes out of 5. So actually not that bad.
Well, I'm about to spend the next 2 months being 0 Chazzes out of 5. I'm pretty excited about that. Why don't we start off with an older story now, but speaking to...
I have a grateful.
Oh, you're grateful? Go for it.
This is just a quick one, but I know not everyone's doing grateful, but I thought I'd bring it to the table because I enjoyed learning it and maybe other people will too.
Please.
So I have to say, for the final PEP of the year, I am grateful for RFK Jr., which
really for giving you material
because I've talked a lot of negative stuff about RFK Jr. this year on PEP. People will know, but you have to give credit where it's due. He did a legitimately good thing, I learned, by going down a strange rabbit hole the other day. I've mentioned before on PEP that I'm a fan of Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I was reading a profile of Cheryl Hines, and it had a detail in it that was saying that, so Larry David, I'm sure that people pitch him ideas for Curb all the time. You know, if you work in TV, a lot of people pitch you ideas. Curb in particular, I'm sure he gets pitched things all the time, and I'm sure that 99.9% of them are terrible ideas that would be terrible on the show that he would probably hate. But RFK Jr. actually told Larry about an idea once that became a classic episode of Curb.
Which one?
Which was a ski lift episode in season 5. So in Curb, Larry gets stuck on a ski lift with an Orthodox Jewish woman at sunset, and she ultimately decides to jump off the ski lift rather than spend the night with a man who she doesn't know. And it turns out that was based on a real-life lawsuit that RFK Jr. told Larry about. So in 1963, have you heard this?
No.
I didn't know this. In 1963, there was a teenage couple that got caught on a ski lift in New York, in New York State, in the Catskill Mountains. And halfway down, the lift stopped. It was sunset. The ski lift operator didn't realize there were people on there. No one heard them shouting. And it was 25 feet to the ground. And this 16-year-old girl, who was from an Orthodox family, felt that her religion forbade her from spending the night with this man that she wasn't married to, or teenage boy. So she jumped from the ski lift, got a fractured nose and some neck and back injuries. And she brought a lawsuit against the state of New York, which owned the resort. And the jury awarded her $35,000 in damages and $2,231 to her father, who paid her medical bills. And Larry turned it into a classic episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, courtesy of RFK Jr. So I'm grateful to him for that thing only.
That's very reasonable. It should also be grateful, as I said, for the content he's provided for you. It's made your life very easy. But also, are we 100% sure that this story is the one that was in the news in the 60s and not just RFK Jr. himself just sex pesting someone off a ski lift? Because I don't know,
both things could be true.
That's true. It's still great TV. So I suppose we should be grateful regardless. Fair enough. Well, thank you very much for that one, Melina. What I'd like to do is I'd like to go to an older story now. This is one about a week ago. We just had to come back to this because at the end of the last PEP, me and Mari, we spent quite a long time talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene and how she'd gotten herself into seemingly an impossible situation, but seemed to have got herself out by playing Trump as well as you possibly could. People have tried to take him on in the past. They all come off second best. They get chewed up and spat out. Trump seemed to get quite angry at Marjorie Taylor Greene recently after she had spent weeks, if not months, going after him. He'd been quite patient with her, and he finally turned the death ray onto her, and she seemed to thrive under the death ray. She conducted a whole bunch of interviews on liberal outlets and did really well, really well. She seemed to know just what to say. She wasn't losing conservatives, even though Trump was calling for conservatives to turn on her. They were not. And then Trump changed his position to be Marjorie Taylor Greene's position. She won. And then after that, Trump shut up. He didn't go on with it. He wasn't every single day talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene and how she's a rhino. He just shut up. And what Mari and I were discussing was this is the first person to genuinely best Trump when he's trying to take them on. What does this mean? We were talking about it for a while. And then I went to bed and I woke up and Marjorie Taylor Greene had resigned. How did this happen? Why? I don't understand. She was doing well. And so we really need to catch up on this one and throw some theories at each other. What the hell is going on? Let me start by throwing over to you, Melina, and you can just take this wherever you want.
Yeah, so obviously people were speculating about what her agenda was the whole time she was talking about Trump, and it was a number of issues, the Epstein petition being the most prominent and the one that, as you mentioned, she won on. And now we get to do a whole another round of what does it mean that she's quit?
Yes.
I think we could probably start by watching just a little bit of her resignation video. It was a 10-minute video, so obviously we can't watch all of it. But there's a portion that kind of gets to some of her reasoning quite directly.
While Republicans will likely lose the midterms and in turn be expected to defend the president against impeachment after he hatefully dumped tens of millions of dollars against me and tried to destroy me. It's all so absurd and completely unserious. I refuse to be a battered wife, hoping it all goes away and gets better.
Yeah, so obviously strong words at the end there, but most of it was a pretty direct explanation of her reasoning, of why it sort of feels pointless or at least unappealing to remain in Congress. And the overall tenor of the whole 10-minute video was one of general frustration at the inability of Congress to kind of make people's lives better, and the general feeling that Trump turning on her and advocating for someone to run in the primary against her being the straw that broke the camel's back. An interesting question that raises for me is she resigning because of the blowback she got for going against Trump, or did she start speaking up more recently because she'd already decided to quit, which we can't know how long this frustration's been mounting.
That's true.
But I think there are a number of things that could have played into her decision, or that people are raising as potential reasons for her decision. So I reckon we can go through a few of them. One thing that we should address, but that I don't think that much of, in terms of the answer to the question of why now, why is she quitting now?
Yeah.
A lot of people are pointing out that her resignation day which is not immediate, it's in January, is 2 days after she becomes eligible for the congressional pension.
Yes.
I don't put a lot of stock in that personally as being a motivating factor. Obviously, if you've decided to quit a job and you're months away from an entitlement vesting, you're probably going to wait it out for the extra month if you can. I think most people would do that in that situation. So that's obviously the reason why she's chosen that date as her resignation date.
Yeah, as opposed to 2 weeks earlier or something like that.
Yeah. But I don't think her grand scheme was to hang around in the job, which is a $175,000 a year job, so that she could get a pension that's going to pay, the estimate is $250,000 over the rest of her life, when, according to Yahoo Finance, she's worth $25 million.
Yeah. And she's about to be worth more as well.
Yeah. So it's not like she's just scraping by. I don't think that, the decision was motivated by the decision to quit was motivated by money. I just don't see that as being relevant.
Yeah.
So unless you feel otherwise, we can probably put that to one side.
No, I'm happy to put that to one side. My question is this, not so much about the pension. The thing that just is a lot, I mean, we'll talk about this, but there are a lot of question marks for me about what's going on here. Just things that don't make sense. You go, okay, that clip you just played where she's saying, I don't want my sweet district to have to put up with a painful primary or whatever. You just go, well, look, obviously by you stepping down, there's going to be a primary, firstly, but let's leave that aside. You can avoid a primary by just not running for re-election. You don't need to resign 10 months earlier, or 12 months earlier, actually. She would have gone till the beginning of 2027. Yeah, this is what people normally do. When they decide they've had enough, they see out their term, but they don't run for re-election. And I've seen nowhere her come up with even the tiniest reason for why she didn't stick out that last 12 months. Have you seen her suggest that anywhere?
She's suggested in a number of forums that she was getting a lot of death threats since going against Trump. I mean, I've also heard her talk about getting death threats because of her, right-wing positions prior to that. So, but the suggestion seemed to be that they've especially escalated and rattled her since she sort of came out against Trump a little bit. So I could see if you've decided to quit and you're distressed by things that are happening, because death threats are scary. And if they've suddenly become really intense, that's not a reason. I'm not sure that would be the only reason, but I would say that would probably be part of the explanation.
But is that going to stop the death threats? I mean, number one, I bet she's had plenty of death threats before this anyway.
Yeah, well, she has said that.
Yeah. But I mean, leaving that aside, and that's something which I think a lot of people don't consider. Like when they talk about the toxic nature of politics in Washington, I don't think they ever really think that the people who are creating the toxic environment, they cop a lot as well. Like I know they're dishing it out, but they always take it. Like I bet you Nancy Mace, who is a massive pain in the ass, I think we can all agree, I bet you she takes some horrendous death threats. It goes around to everyone, especially the loud people. And so, yes, I'm sure she's had plenty. And I don't see why they'd stop, all because she said she was going to resign. Like if they think that she's on blast with Trump, you don't stop being on blast with Trump because you leave Congress.
Well, you do in a sense, because in a sense that's conceding the fight to him. You're letting Trump win. Sure. And so if you're no longer in the public eye antagonizing him, not saying they'd 100% go away, but I'm sure that's part of why Mitt Romney quit politics as well. Like just wanting to, he sort of said things to that effect. Is if you go away, it takes out a lot of the intensity. Trump, for his part, said that she quit because she was going to lose the primary. I'm not sure that that's true personally. I kind of think that she's right, that she probably would have won. It would have been a lot harder. And, there's no guarantee. But I suspect that if Trump had backed an opponent in the primary, it would have been a tough battle, but she probably would have come out on top of that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a shame we're not going to get to see that, because it would have been instructive, I think.
Yeah, it would have been. Look, I think that it really depends on who the primary person was. It's just too early to know. If it was a strong candidate, maybe they could have taken her out. But I think all likelihood it wouldn't have been a strong candidate. They're usually not, like these lickspittles. And and Marjorie Taylor Greene is obviously becoming a more formidable politician as time goes on. She's a pretty good speaker. She's got plenty of money. She wouldn't be short of money in a primary. And she's
one of the best fundraisers in the House.
Yeah, totally. And I think that she'd probably she already had the support of the entire branch of the Republican Party. I think she probably would have won as well. I mean, Trump also said that I've got a tweet here of him saying, Marjorie Taylor, Traitor Brown, his nickname's terrible, because of plummeting poll numbers and not wanting to face a primary challenger with a strong Trump endorsement, etc. They wouldn't have had time to run a proper poll by the time she resigned, because she only lasted 3 or 4 days after Trump went her. You need at least 2 weeks to have a proper poll. So
and she didn't tell anyone. Everyone was caught off guard by the resignation, even allies. But I would say I tend to think that her outrage over the Epstein saga is very sincere.
Yeah.
I would say in contrast to the cynical pursuit of it by many of Trump's adversaries amongst House Democrats. I think one of the animating forces that got her into politics in the first place was belief in the QAnon conspiracy. And I mean, she later renounced that, but she genuinely believed that. And that was a big part of, she went from, unlike many politicians, she's not someone who grew up always wanting to be a politician and gearing her whole life towards that outcome. She was a normal person in the sense of, just having a job out in the world, not particularly interested in politics. She didn't vote in many elections. She was just, not very engaged. And it was Trump becoming president and the QAnon conspiracy theory that animated her about politics in the first place and kickstarted this whole journey for her. So there's that aspect. And I also find it interesting, she grew up and got married in the Catholic Church, and she left the Catholic Church because of their sex abuse scandal. So she reached a point where she had kids and she said, I can't trust this institution to look after my kids because they've harbored pedophiles. So she changed denominations. She's still Christian, obviously, but she joined a different Christian denomination.
Yeah.
So I do think that there's a track record that we can kind of take on face value of legitimately taking that issue of child abuse very seriously in her own way. It manifests in ways that are, I take it seriously too, but I don't believe in QAnon. But, I think that is a real thing for her. And to that point, there was a line in her resignation video that stood out to me.
There is no plan to save the world or a 4D chess game being played. When common American people realize and understand that the political industrial complex of both parties is ripping this country apart, that not one elected leader like me is able to stop Washington's machine from gradually destroying our country, and instead the reality is that they, common Americans, the people, possess the real power over Washington, then I'll be here by their side to rebuild it.
So that comment there about there being no plan to save the world or 4D chess game being played, it kind of gets lost in a 10-minute video. But that sounds to me very much like someone who spent a lot of time genuinely engaging in the QAnon conspiracy theory, and for, just to remind people, a key part of that theory is that there's this cabal of powerful pedophiles that rule the world, and that Trump is secretly in government to, unearth them all and defeat them and, save the children. And if you believe that, and then you get into Congress and you have Donald Trump's phone number in your phone, you're like close to the seat of power, and you realize that Trump is not that guy. You see it firsthand, because her public position on the Epstein files is that she doesn't believe Trump did anything wrong himself, but she's increasingly coming to believe that he's covering for other powerful men that are in the files. And if she's gone from believing in QAnon, which is that Trump is going to expose this shadowy cabal of powerful pedophiles, to now believing Trump is actively covering for a shadowy cabal of powerful pedophiles, like, you can imagine how disillusioning that would be. It would be massive for you. And I think that could be a real factor in her just becoming disgusted with Congress and frustrated and wanting to leave. A lot of people go to Congress and get frustrated and disgusted and leave. But, I would be surprised if that wasn't a part of creating a strength of feeling in her, even if she's not coming out and saying it explicitly, connecting those things. I suspect that they are connected.
Let's remember the disillusioning things. I think that actually that connects a lot of questions I've got and a lot of observations I've got to make as well. Like, I think you're onto something there, to be honest. I think you're really onto something there. I mean, the first question I had, which that kind of answers, is if she really cares about the Epstein files and about the victims, her walking away from Congress now is the dumbest possible thing she can do, because she is their biggest defender. And anyone who thinks that this is over is really, really naive. Those Epstein files, the information is going to be pulled out like dental floss through the scungiest teeth for the next 4 or 5 years. It's just going to be court case after court case after outrage after it's just that this information is not coming out easily, and they really have to work hard. And the only people who can do it are Congress. They're the only people, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of the 5 people, you would say, who have the loudest voice on this particular issue. The victims are going to be worse off because of her leaving Congress. That's just a fact. And if she genuinely cares about that, then she's not playing this smart. If that's her number one priority, she's made the wrong decision. That was going to be a question of mine. Why would she do it then? And the answer might be she's just disgusted and had enough and disillusioned. She is where a lot of us who are into politics from when we're kids are at when we're 21. like we've been through uni, we've been through the idealistic phase, and we've kind of hit reality all of a sudden. And we just go, oh, shit, it's not like the Green Left Weekly said. It's just, that's something that every political person needs to go through, and they end up in different places at the end of it. But maybe she's just going through that now.
I think also her prediction that Republicans are most likely to lose the House, and then the next couple of years are going to be all about Republicans just defending Trump against impeachment pushes. I think that's right.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a reasonable prediction.
Yeah,
and it's reasonable for her to base her decision making on that probability, and I think that's a part of it as well. So even if she understood to some extent that she could maybe be helpful in pushing the Epstein question in Congress, she probably feels like she can also push it outside of Congress, which she can, to, put a degree of pressure on.
Not as effectively.
No, I know, but I'm thinking what she might be rationalizing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And, just seeing Congress be ineffectual, seeing the amount of hate and blowback she gets for pushing it, feeling disheartened that Trump is not an ally in this cause, and then looking at the prospect of having to turn around and defend him for the next 2 years, and that being the kind of all-consuming dynamic, including after, as she just says directly, after he's tried to get her out of Congress in the first place in a primary. Who needs that?
Yeah. Well, on that note, a question I had, which you may also be answering, is, not a question, more observation, was I think something, this is a 10-minute speech. Not everyone has watched this 10-minute speech. Something really came through loud and clear to me was that it was a tantrum. There are whole sections where she's basically just going, not fair, in different words. And I just wanted to just play a bit to show you what I'm talking about.
I have fought harder than almost any other elected Republican to elect Donald Trump and Republicans to power. I traveled the country for years. I spent millions of my own money. I missed precious time with my family that I can never get back. And I showed up in places like outside the New York courthouse in Collect Pond Park against a raging leftist mob as Trump faced Democrat lawfare. Meanwhile, most of the establishment Republicans who secretly hate him and who stabbed him in the back and never defended him against anything have all been welcomed in right after the election. And I will never forget the day I had to leave my mother's side as my father had brain surgery to remove cancerous tumors in order to fly to Washington, D.C. to defend President Trump and vote no against the Democrats' second impeachment in 2021. My poor father and my poor mother, it was way too much for all of us. Loyalty should be a two-way street, and we should be able to vote our conscience and represent our district's interests because our job title is literally representative. America first should mean America first and only Americans first, with no other foreign country ever being attached to America first in our halls of government. Standing up for American women who were raped at 14 years old, trafficked and used by rich, powerful men should not result in me being called a traitor and threatened by the President of the United States, whom I fought for.
So she's saying, I was a really good person, I was completely loyal, I did everything right, and I've been punished as a result of that. Not fair. Maybe it's as simple as that. Maybe she means it. She's just pissed off with the unfairness of it all.
Yeah, and I think also if you haven't aspired your whole life to be a politician, if it's a relatively new interest for you, then the threshold for walking away from it would be much lower. Before she was doing this, her life was about CrossFit. She was like, had a CrossFit gym and was competing in CrossFit competitions, and like she was all in. She was all in on that. And so it's not to say that she doesn't care about politics having gotten into it, but it's just, the people who spend their whole life thinking, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to be in any profession. It's really hard to then walk away and think, well, what am I if I'm not this thing that I've spent my whole life thinking I'm going to be, which is true for many people in politics. But for her, if she's been only interested in this in like the past 10 years and she's in her 50s, she might still retain an interest and involvement in politics in some way. But I think walking away is easier in that context if you're frustrated.
Let me ask you, I will bring it back to her being pissed off down the track, but let me just ask you about the other side, the strategic side, because, I don't think I was the only one who was pretty sure that she was playing a presidential campaign for the last few months. Because what she was doing was, by the numbers, exactly what you would do, like if you were in her position. It actually... And in fact, what she's done now is exactly what you would do. Australians, more than anyone, are familiar with the idea of when someone wants to take out a very powerful leader, or the movement behind a very powerful leader, what you do is you go back to the backbench and you disappear for a little while and you wait for them to fall over, and then you come back, present yourself triumphant in another year and go, aha, there's another way. That way is me. And that's not the American way usually, but it's definitely the Australian way and the British way. It would make sense that we have seen this happen before, even in America, that if you're no longer endorsing the direction of your party, rather than being tarred by that direction, you just separate yourself, let them crash and burn, and then present the real MAGA, the voice that never betrayed anyone. Let's become more extreme, more hardcore, more conservative. Let's double down. That's basically all that's happened for the last 20 years in America. Every time someone loses, their side doubles down harder and come back even harder. It looked like she was doing that. Maybe she is doing that. Maybe she's just acting like she's pissed off, or maybe she's pissed off and she's doing that. What do you think? Do you think there's any chance that she's playing the long game here?
I did find it interesting that she hammered that phrase, and you heard it in the last clip, America first, quite a number of times, because I feel like that's obviously a phrase Trump uses as well. But if you were trying to create a lane that's pitching to MAGA people, but also creating distance with Trump, that's a clever way to do it, I think, not to say I'm the inheritor of MAGA, but to say America first is actually what we want to be, and that's what I am. And I do think it's interesting. I noticed in her Twitter profile, when I was just looking at what she's been talking about the past few days, her bio says Christian mother, American business owner, and Congresswoman representing Georgia's 14th district, chairwoman, Doge committee, America only, US flag emoji. Doesn't say Republican, doesn't say MAGA, doesn't say Trump. Yeah. I was convinced by the arguments before her quitting that she was potentially laying some groundwork to run for president. And there were, supposedly people, anonymous sources saying that she was expressing that sentiment to people for whatever that's worth. I don't really think quitting Congress is a great way to launch a presidential bid. I mean, I could see, if you're trying to set up a thing where you're saying, I quit on principle and now I'm coming back. Yeah. I don't know if she's going to run for president, and she might not know yet. It might be something that she'd like to do, but it doesn't mean she's made a decision. She might be kind of going back and forth on something. I definitely think she has no chance of being president, which is a slightly different question. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if she tried to run for office again. Some office people have also talked about governor of Georgia being something she might run for, but I just don't see how she has any chance of winning any statewide or countrywide office. I think she spent too long pitching to the hard right, which is one thing in a district that's bright red, like her congressional district, but it doesn't travel to, a general broader electorate. And even in a primary, I mean, like in a general election, she has a huge problem where I don't think the left are ever going to be on board with her in and of her independence, her recent turn towards civility notwithstanding. But I also think there's a big enough portion, in terms of a primary, I think there's a big enough portion of the MAGA base that might be okay with a woman being, in charge of a congressional seat, but are not going to go for that at a higher level of power, at a level of governor or president. And I think she's going to run into that problem if she does run for office. So, yeah, I don't know if she is going to try. I don't, but I don't think that there's any chance of her being successful. I also don't get the sense that she has a lot of political allies. Like, she doesn't strike me as a big joiner. Like, she was even kicked out of the House Freedom Caucus, which feels like it would be hard to do. If I had to guess what her future holds, I could really, this is just wild predictions, but I could really see her being on the Sarah Palin trajectory where, she may or may not run for office again. Sarah Palin did and was unsuccessful, but I feel like we haven't heard the last of her one way or another. I don't think she's going to fade into the background. I think she likes attention and is good at getting attention enough that, we're still going to hear from her in some context. but I do feel like she's more likely to pop up on like The Masked Singer singing Baby's Got Back than show up as governor of Georgia or president of the United States, personally.
That's a great analogy. Okay, I got a few thoughts. First of all, yeah, America First, America Only is her branding. She's had it for a while. That's not new. So, yeah, and she likes that. And I agree. That is interesting. I also agree she's got Buckley's of being president, but she's got 0% of being president if she just kept on doing what she was doing. And the reason why I say that is because that, let's face it, there's only one kind of woman that Trump supports, and it's not the kind that looks like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let's just be blunt. Right? Okay, that's just we all know the type that Trump likes. And
people are paying a lot of money to plastic surgeons to get that type.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it's really, really obvious the kind of women that Trump elevates, and they're not Marjorie Taylor Greene. And as far as like, he's never supported her in any capacity. He's never supported.
She wanted to be Homeland Security Secretary, right?
Yeah.
And he snubbed her for that.
Yeah. Like he didn't support her for governor, didn't support her for Senate, didn't support her for his executive. He didn't support her for anything. Everything she's gotten has been in spite of Trump, not because of Trump. Even though every now and then when he's feeling particularly shameless, he takes credit for her. He really shouldn't.
He didn't endorse her when she first ran for Congress.
That's right. He's never endorsed her, and I'm sure she's painfully aware of that. She's not even in the queue. Like, it's not just there's people ahead of her, like Rubio and Vance, but she's not even in the queue. The only way she has a chance of anything other than holding her congressional seat in the future, any position, don't know, president, senator, governor, anything other than holding her congressional seat, the only chance she has is if MAGA hits the wall like a squashed fly. That's the only thing, because everyone in front of her needs to get taken out before she has any chance. And then she needs to, like you say, she can't say, I am the new MAGA. She needs to have her own fresh branding, which is the new MAGA, but it's called something else. And that is what I thought she was doing. And going, okay, I'm going to cherry pick a couple of key elements from the left that I think are going to be on the right in the future, like, for instance, anti-Israel. She would be predicting that in 10 years' time or in 5 years' time, no one's liking Israel. And so she went hard on that early with the left, knowing that in 5 years' time, it wouldn't just be the left. You know, like and she picked a couple of things like that, I think. Well, I thought. And I agree with you. That leaves her with very little chance. But might be better than zero. And and so that's what I thought she was sort of playing at. They're not the high percentage play, but the best she could do from the position she was in. But I'm starting to change my mind on this. For a couple of reasons. It's not because of her resigning. Like I said, you can do that and you can still have the same plan. It makes sense. It's the way she's resigning. She's not resigning in a thoughtful, strategic way. She's resigning in an emotional, angry way. That's not helping her at all. And we should say, like, sometimes you need to listen to people when they tell you something over and over again. Like, it's worth at least acknowledging that. And she keeps on saying, I'm not going to run for president. Now, of course, she's going to say that, even if she's running for president. But the reasoning she gives, I think, is compelling reasoning. Let me read it to you. This is one of her tweets after Time magazine said again that she was running for president after she resigned. Time claims sources, in inverted commas, told them I'm running for president in 2028, which means this is a complete lie and they made it up because they can't even quote the names of the people who they claim said it. That's not journalism, it's called lying. I'm not running for president and I never said I wanted to, and I've only laughed about it when anyone would mention it. If you fell for those headlines, you're still being lulled every day into psychosis by the political industrial complex that always has an agenda when it does something like this. And by the way, every time she mentions political industrial complex, it makes me think she's running for president. That's a very presidential thing to say. But anyway, running for president requires traveling all over the country, begging for donations all day, every day to raise hundreds of millions of dollars, arguing political talking points every day to the point of exhaustion, destroying your health and having no personal life in order to attempt to get enough votes to become president, all to go to work into a system that refuses to fix any of America's problems. The fact I'd have to go through all that, but would be totally blocked from truly fixing anything, is exactly why I would never do it. And most importantly, I'm not the kind of person who's willing to make the deals that must be made in order to be allowed to have that title. Again, I'm not motivated by power and titles. The political industrial complex has destroyed our country and will never allow someone like me or you to rise to power and actually solve the crises that plague all of us. That would go against its business model. Once again, when she says someone like you to rise to power, I think she's running for president. But having said that, when she went through all the begging for donations and all that kind of stuff, I thought that's not something presidential candidates normally say. That's something people who are just trying to explain why they would never do it say. The fact she mentioned about her health, you go, Marjorie Taylor Greene is someone who actually cares about her health. She's obsessed with exercise, as you say, and all this. That sounds like an actual reason. So maybe she's just a good actor. Maybe that's what you do if you're a good performer. You carry on like that right now. But I read that and I thought, as far as denials go, that's not unconvincing.
It has the ring to me of someone who thought about it and thought, I might like to be president.
Yeah.
And then maybe had a look at the landscape and realized how improbable it is and has now come up with a bunch of reasons to not do it and may yet change her mind again in future.
Absolutely.
I think she is someone who, has strong opinions and likes to be the main character.
Yeah.
and I think that she's clearly put a lot of thought into reasons why one shouldn't run for president, right? Which means she's thought about what it would take to run for president.
Yes.
And decided maybe not.
Yeah.
But people can change their mind. It sounds like she's changed her mind once, she could change it again.
Yeah.
But to me, the interesting thing, because, again, whether she runs or not, is of only so much interest to me, given that there's zero chance in my mind that she would, get any traction even in a Republican primary. But the thing that is interesting to me about it is the kind of question of, what her resignation and the kinds of things she's talking about, what it says about where the MAGA movement and Republicans, people have different opinions about whether those things are the same or different, but, where they're heading and what it says about 2028 more broadly beyond her specific aspirations and chances. And one of the things that I think is interesting to me is that Trump always says that he is MAGA. Like,
he does say that.
His movement.
Yeah.
But in a sense, I feel like Marjorie Taylor Greene, in one sense, I mean, obviously Trump is MAGA because it's his movement. He created it. He sets the agenda. But in another way, Marjorie Taylor Greene is, because she is much more closely representative of what a MAGA voter is.
Yeah.
She came to politics as someone who got on board the MAGA train and decided, I'm into that. This is my political philosophy. I want to be part of this movement. And in terms of her life and her beliefs and just, like where she's come from, she is much more reflective of a MAGA voter than Trump, who, is very different from his voter base in every respect, in terms of his background, in terms of his class. Trump changed his mind on a dime about what he believes, depending on who he's talking to. For him, MAGA is just whatever he wants it to be at any given time. But for a lot of voters, it stands for something in particular. And I think she's both representative of and trying to harness whatever that is, And I find it interesting in the sense of both, if she's a reflection of Trump's base, does her drift from him and, to disgust and disinterest in politics reflect what we're going to see from the broader base as the second Trump presidency runs into more and more trouble, enters the lame duck period and looks to what's next? Is she a bit of a canary in the coal mine for what a lot of his voters are thinking and feeling right now, looking at the Epstein situation, looking at inflation, looking at, some of the things that are happening on the border for better and worse in their mind in terms of how they view it, looking at the, rumblings around Venezuela and the strikes on Iran. Is she actually to the extent that she's very attuned to that voter base because she is of that voter base, does that tell us something about where that base is going in the future? Because I think that people speculate a lot about, what the movement is going to look like post-Trump. And in my mind, like, there isn't a movement around Trump. It is just Trump. He has systematically disempowered all the roles that should theoretically have a seat at the table. If this was a broader movement beyond, that can exist beyond Trump, Congress, secretaries in the executive branch, he's taken power from them, one by one, to the point where, they really can't do anything about anything. And Trump is not acting like someone who cares about ideas that he wants to see carried forward, beyond his tenure in politics. His actions are that of someone who wants to consolidate any and all power with himself and himself alone. And so I don't think we're going back to, George Bush types leading the Republican Party anytime soon. But, for people who think it's obvious that, nominee Vance or nominee Tucker Carlson is the next step because, I think a lot of people saw Trump get reelected and were like, oh, okay, I guess this movement is staying. Like, this has staying power. And we have not yet seen people show up for this movement outside of times when Trump is on the ballot. And I think, I'm not saying that it's, Vance can't get the nomination and carry forward, a lot of this agenda. It's possible, but it's certainly feeling less likely to me at the moment that, there's still a very real chance that, this theoretical cohesive movement fractures and goes in a bunch of different directions and can't be kept together as a cohesive movement with all of the kind of wings that are currently in that coalition without the kind of unifying figure of Trump leading it, because he clearly just draws people in a particular way.
What I'd say to that is that, look, I think you're certainly right. It has relied on Trump to unify it until now. But I think part of the reason it's relied on Trump to unify it until now is because there's just zero ideology. There's no consistency. As you say, it's a Star Wars cantina. There are no consistent wings of anything. There's 1,000 wings. That's a dragonfly. There are so many wings. And in a normal, coherent political... You look at the Democrats over there, and they're at each other's throats over a few differences between the left and the centrists. And you look at the right, and you just go, "Mate, these people don't resemble each other in any way, shape, or form." And so Trump... he is a unifying force as a human being. They go, well, one thing we all support is Trump. That's what unifies us. But maybe it might sound ridiculous saying this now, but things stay the same until they don't. There may be a person just around the corner who might be some kind of intellectual unifier for the right, with some kind of new way of approaching conservatism that does drag in almost the whole entire Republican Party, and then that will unify them. We just don't know. But I do agree that right now, it's all just Trump is the only thing that's holding them together. And Marjorie Taylor Greene may well be the canary in the coal mine that Trump isn't holding them together as much as he used to. That's a really interesting thought. Yeah. So the other thing I'd say is there's a different angle on that as well, which is maybe it's not about MAGA, maybe it's about Congress. Like maybe Congress sucks. If you look at the speech that we keep on coming back to, Marjorie Taylor Greene took some serious time to say how much Congress sucks, how much Mike Johnson just does nothing, how they just spent the shutdown just wasting their time and not trying to do anything constructive whatsoever, and how she's completely given up on getting anything through Congress. I'm sure she's not the only one. That's something that people who don't have her ideology at all have been saying for some time. The Congress is utterly dysfunctional and is where good ideas go to die. And Punchbowl had an article out this week. I don't know if you saw it or not. Did you saw it? Yeah. I'll just quote from bits of it. Punchbowl News reports that even more Republican representatives are considering resigning in the middle of their term due to what they see as the arrogance of this White House. One anonymous senior House Republican said, "This entire White House team has treated all members like garbage. All. And Mike Johnson has let it happen because he wanted it to happen. That is the sentiment of nearly all appropriators, authorizers, hawks, doves, rank and file. The arrogance of this White House team is off-putting to members who are run roughshod over and threatened. They don't even allow little wins, like announcing small grants or even responding from agencies. Not even the high profile, the regular rank and file random members are more upset than ever. Members know they're going into the minority after the midterms. More explosive early resignations are coming. It's a tinderbox. Morale has never been lower. Mike Johnson will be stripped of his gavel and they will lose the majority before this term is out. So this is a senior Republican saying there are going to be another 2 or 3 or 4 resignations over the next few months so that they lose the majority because people have stopped giving us stuff. It's just not worth the squeeze. I believe that. I'm not saying they will lose the majority, but I believe that a lot of Congress people are just going, it ain't worth it. We get a lot of death threats. We get a lot of crap. We get a lot of pizzas that we didn't order. Although, if you want to send me a pizza, make it healthy. Pizzas aren't very good for me, if this was a year ago, I would have welcomed them, but now it's just not so good. I've done some hard work.
Leave the tangent treehouse sting.
Thank you, Melina, for reminding me. My point is this: that there's a lot of negatives to being in Congress. You don't get to see your family, you get threatened a lot, your life sucks. And if there's no prospect of positives, maybe we've finally gotten to the point where even the people in Congress who are benefiting from Congress are sick of circling down the partisan drain and going, we just need some reforms here. In which case, this would be a positive time. Like, you get these very negative periods before a period of positive change. Maybe we're about to hit it. Maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene is a canary in the coal mine in that respect as well.
Yeah, I think that's right. Like, I think we should, again, it comes back to believing people when they're telling you their reasons. Yeah. I think that it's very easy to believe that it sucks to be in Congress right now and that people are really frustrated and not enjoying it. And if you can see yourself having a better life outside of it, and again, if it's not your kind of life's work to be part of it, then why wouldn't you quit? People quit bad jobs all the time. And so I think that that's very much would be a genuine part of her reasoning. And there are a high number of people quitting at the end of this term. And she's not the only one that cited death threats as part of the reasoning. So, I think that's all true. I'm not as optimistic that we're just about to turn the corner to a better Congress. I think it's probably going to get a bit worse before it gets better. We'll see who replaces Marjorie Taylor Greene. I am not optimistic that it's going to be an upgrade necessarily. But, I do agree that once things reach a certain low, oftentimes, it can't go any lower, and so it can only go up from there. So we may be getting close to that point.
Look, I share your cynicism, and your pessimism as well. I share both of them, and I think history proves you right. But all I'm saying is what I'd said before. I'll repeat it again. Things keep on going until they don't. At some point in time, something changes. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but in 50 years' time, people are going to look back and they'll say there was a period when it changed. And it may have been in 2026, it may have been in 2029, it may have been in 2034. I remember playing ping pong with Richie once, Richard Cook in 2007, saying that I thought that the late 20s and the early 30s were going to be the darkest period of this era, like this whole sort of since the Industrial Revolution. As it was going to be, everything was tracking to really, really suck around 2030, I said at the time. And some of the reasons I gave have come true. Believe it or not, some of them have not. But that's for another PEP. I was always optimistic because I said, it's going to suck, but we'll come through it. Society always does. And on the other end, it will be good because hard times make tough people. And there are going to be, and the people of the 2040s are going to come out flying, if I'm right. And so, but having said that, what I'm saying is I do agree it probably will get worse, but it might not. At some point in time, it won't. Let's hope it's now.
I'm slightly more optimistic at the moment that things won't necessarily get worse at the presidential level. I mean, I think a Democrat's more likely to win than not in 2028, regardless. But, there's been lots of people trying to read the tea leaves of where the Republican side of politics is going. And, is what comes after Trump going to be even worse? Because we shouldn't forget that Trump does have, less so lately, but, for all of his authoritarian tendencies and all of the very lawless things he does, there is also, times where he surprises people, where he kind of tracks the other way. And there's sort of still, that's a big part of why he was able to win independents in the first place. The perception, rightly or wrongly, that he was a moderate relative to Republicans. And I feel like, that's increasingly looking foolish as an assumption. And that's probably why his polling with independents is tanking so hard. But, there's, I think, been a real, a lot of sort of pessimistic commentary. It's like, well, the next step from Trump is like a Tucker Carlson who, has himself very much gone off the rails and is, deeply mired in anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and, all kinds of racist junk and horrible things. And that, the next person is going to be even worse. And I feel like, look, definitely not ruling it out. Definitely possible. But I do feel slightly more optimism lately that there may, especially if Republicans lose the next election, I'm sure there will be people running in that track, but, I don't think it's a fait accompli that the Republican Party is going to go further down that direction. Because I think, if you look at the Democrats, you had in, say, Obama, a very charismatic figure, but who also, for the most part represented broadly a Democrat status quo in terms of his positions. His positions were not that different from Bill Clinton's, not that different from Hillary Clinton's when she was running against him. There's generally a Democrat orthodoxy that has continued over. So when Biden is running, no one's going to say he's as charismatic as Obama, but generally he's able to pull the same coalition along that voted for Obama because there's continuity there. And that was true of the Republican Party for a long time until Trump, who basically upended that Republican orthodoxy, managed to retain a lot of the Republicans because of loyalty to the party and to the brand, even as it was changing, while also bringing in new people. But, just getting back to that point earlier of MAGA not necessarily having an ideology that's consistent and cohesive, I don't know that it then follows that someone else can pick up that mantle and carry it forward. There's either going to be another charismatic figure who has their own set of ideas or happens to have the same set of ideas, but independently can carry people through their charisma, or there's going to be people with other ideas that may be closer to what Republicans had before or something different again. And it feels like much more of an open question to me at the moment, because again, the big thing about Trump was that he brought all these low propensity voters out. He clearly inspired something in a class of voter that was disillusioned with politics. And what Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation, the manner of it and the timing of it says to me is that a lot of people who felt that way are feeling disillusioned again, have gone back to feeling like they want to check out at this time. And so I don't know. I certainly don't think someone like JD Vance, who's not particularly charismatic, is going to be able to carry those people just based on, a kind of copy paste of Trump's agenda, whatever it is, especially given it changes so much from day to day anyway.
Absolutely. Just for the record, when I'm talking about potentially dark periods, I'm not talking about necessarily extremism from one party or another. I'm usually referring to the system and the incentives the system creates. And what I've got in mind, I'm not talking about 2007 here when I'm playing ping pong with Richie. I'm talking about if you ask me tomorrow, if things go wrong, why would they go wrong? I would say it's not because the next Republican after Trump is this, that, or the other, or the next Democrat is socialist or whatever. It's nothing like that. It's the next Democratic president in 2029. If they don't hold the Senate, there's going to be some troubles. They're going to try and do everything through the executive. And then the next Republican president after that is going to have all three houses of parliament. Is going to have the House and the Senate and the presidency, plus the precedence of what that Democrat president just did. And they will be able to do anything. And you better hope that that Republican president is an impressive person, because they're going to have absolute power. And and that's when you start to worry about the precedents that have been set over the last 20 years. That's when they'll come to bite. The next Republican, whoever that may be. And I don't have a lot of faith in human nature. so that is what worries me. Now, I was going to say, just before we put this topic to bed, I mean, you might have more to say about it, but we did skip past something before, which I just wanted to say, just in case there are people. I mean, I think I agree. I was going to end up on the same place you end up with anyway. You know, you must be right, I guess, about Marjorie Taylor Greene just seems to have the shits. For those who are thinking through the strategic element, the presidential element, I do want to make one point, which is I did hint before where I was going when I said it's the way she's resigned that, for me, is alarm bells if you're in the strategic camp thinking that she's playing the long game. I just want to tell you what I'm talking about, because I haven't seen many people note this. If she wants to run for president by sitting out the midterms, if she's thought to herself, okay, Trump's about to go down, we're in trouble here, Republicans about to get slaughtered, there's just going to be impeachments and all the rest of it, I don't want a piece of this, I want to be the post period of that. That's perfectly legitimate, no problems. What she would try to do is she tried to get out with her dignity, and she would try to build alliances, because there are already obvious natural alliances if that's what you're going to do. And especially if your slogan is America First, America Alone. There are, America Only, America First, America Only. There are people that you would try to form an alliance with. Like, for instance, Nick Fuentes, who is obviously on the march. As long as you can interpret that. But yeah, he matches Marjorie Taylor Greene just fine. America First, America Only. She doesn't have to be Nazi to be his ally. He, as time is going on, is gonna mainstream himself if he wants real power. And so you know, I could see them meeting each other in 4 years' time and being, you know, part of the same movement. Like the online right, they're constantly at Trump for betraying MAGA principles. You know, they're more Tucker Carlson aligned than Trump aligned. She'll be trying to make an alliance with them and the Tucker types. She'll be trying to make an alliance with all those people. She certainly wouldn't be trying to piss them off. And when she resigned, they offered her an alliance. Like there was, for example, like Mike Cernovich was very supportive of her over the last few months, and Nick Fuentes, when she resigned, he also tweeted out, so now Ben Shapiro, Randy Fine, and Lindsey Graham are considered MAGA, but Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, and Thomas Massey are not. Your Israel First MAGA movement is dead. The America First movement is the future. That's something that Marjorie Taylor Greene could have built on. Or alternatively, she could just shut up and let them elevate her without her saying a word. She could have done that. But no, what she has done is gone out of her way to piss off a lot of people on her way out, which is not a strategic move. And I'll tell you what I'm referring to. Mike Cernovich, who honestly has supported her a lot recently, he tweeted at her, you need to serve out your full term, which is a fairly moderate thing to say. It's not an angry thing to say. It's not a death threat thing to say. It's a pretty reasonable thing to say. It's something that I was saying before. That's the normal strategy. Serve out your full term, then resign. This is how she responded to him. Oh, I haven't suffered enough for you while you post all day behind a screen? Do I have to stay until I'm assassinated like our friend Charlie Kirk? Will that be good enough for you then? Shit posting on the internet all day isn't fighting. Get off your ass and run for Congress. I fought harder than anyone in the real arena, not social media. Put down your little pebbles and put your money where your mouth is, she says. In response to that fairly mild comment, just biting his head off. It sounds like she she has fantasies of herself as a Christ-like figure when she speaks like that. And she's suffering for your benefits, etc. Super defensive, super emotional. It's also silly because everyone knows Cernovich is on the make. He's going to be running for office at some point in time. Don't worry, Marjorie. Cernovich is coming. He's just hanging around biding his time. So you don't need to give him a second invite. He'll be there. But why make an enemy out of him for nothing? He's been supporting her. And then she just jumps on him. At the same time, Nick Fuentes, who once again, he'd be a handy ally for her in the future. And he can't wait to backstab MAGA. In response to that tweet I just read out, he responded with, "This is pathetic." And then he followed up afterwards with, "So first you sold out to Kevin McCarthy, then you quit because you couldn't handle the pressure, and now you're acting like a typical feminist bitch. What a disgrace. Good riddance, monkey." I don't think he's going to be an ally for her in the future.
I have a thought, but first, why do you think Nick Fuentes would be a good ally for her to have? I'm curious about the reasoning there.
Because his thing is the same kind of anti-immigration, nativist, America first, no wars overseas shit that she does. Like every one of her causes this year, they've been against Trump. Nick Fuentes has been on her side on. Every single one. Her imagining of where MAGA will be in 5 years' time is his imagining, except for he thinks there'll be Nazi jokes as well. That's the only difference. I'm not saying they're twins. I'm just saying their vision of the future is actually quite compatible.
So I feel like, and I'm not saying I think this is going to be successful, but if I had to guess, her logic I think that the Cernovich reply is probably just genuine anger and lashing out. But the broader, why is she not strategically trying to appeal to someone like Nick Fuentes? I think that she is trying to appeal strategically to a different group. I don't agree that Nick Fuentes is a good person to pair up with, because I'd still like to believe there are some people that are beyond the pale. And even if he can bring himself closer to the center of MAGA, because he's not even the center of MAGA, I do think that, he's pretty on the fringe. And her problem, I suspect her perception of what she would need to do to increase her chance of future political office, which can only be done by widening her appeal, is by trying to pitch more to the center. And the group that I think she has been actively courting in the last few weeks is women. Yeah. If you watch her on The View, which is, a pretty liberal forum, and it's all women, she talked, she referenced a number of times wanting to support women in terms of the Epstein files and the victims of Epstein, and also talked enthusiastically about the idea of being in this forum of women and talking with these women on The View, and how it was great that they could have a respectful conversation, all these women. And she's made, I wasn't prepared for this part of the chat, so I can't remember exactly what she said, but she kind of made references to the swinging dicks in Congress in a negative way. She's like, I can say this because we're on a panel of all women, all those swinging dicks in Congress behaving badly. She is explicitly, front-footing herself as a woman to appeal to these more left-wing and or independent women. And I'm not saying this is going to be a successful strategy, but I think the logic, and I think it's at least a better logic than teaming up with Nick Fuentes when there's already a perception that Marjorie Taylor Greene is too fringe for anything but deep red Georgia. Yep. That she needs to pivot to the center, and this is part of this whole I want to stop the toxic politics and be nice to everyone now, and this whole pivot that she did, which people did perceive at the time as a pivot with a view to running for president.
Okay, I'm going to. Yeah, you might have seen. I was like people call me on the Discord. They sometimes refer to me as Sweet Summer Chaz because of my naivety, and I don't get a chance often to do this, but I'm gonna pull out Sweet Summer Melina, thinking that Nick Fuentes is beyond the pale, and that he'll never be mainstreamed, and that oh my God. I'm going to pull this one out in 5 years' time, Melina, because I think we all know how this goes. It's sadly, I hope you're right. I don't like the guy. But just, yeah, I feel like I've been on this ride for a real long time and it's not stopping anytime soon. It's just...
I mean, I didn't say he would never be mainstreamed, I don't think. Maybe I did. Cut it out if I did, Lucky.
But...
Look, I'm not saying he can't attempt to move further to the center. I just think that, there's a difference between being a, run-of-the-mill racist and being a Nazi. The former is much more welcome in American politics. I'm not naive about that. The latter is a red line that people, it's still to this point at least, clearly draw. Like Trump is a lot of bad things and he does a lot of racist things, but he's drawn the line at Nazism to date.
He certainly has. He certainly has. And like I said, I hope you're right. But,
and I would say that in terms of the, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and appealing to women, I don't think that's just like becoming a moderate. It can be things like running hard on, say, she's referenced being friends with Blake and Riley's mum, and you can run hard on crime, and you could have I could see her thinking that there's a constituency among suburban women who have increasingly gone to the Democrats. If you run hard on crime and immigration and say, I'm trying to give your kids a future. I'm trying to get jobs for your kids, because she talks a lot about her kids. She has adult kids in their 20s and how their generation is screwed, and appealing to suburban mums and saying your kids don't have a future because people like Trump and co don't care about them, and I'm looking out for them, and that means kick out all the immigrants. That means arrest all the criminals who happen to be, mostly immigrants in this view of the world. That you can see how in her mind she could marry her, right-wing anti-immigration ideology to a kind of more moderate woman that could be a swing voter. Again, not saying it's going to be successful, trying to think about where she might be coming from that could still have a strategic logic.
Look, Melina, it's intelligent. What you're saying is intelligent, and I'm trying to throw you a bone here. You got to let me throw you a bone because I've got a tweet I've just been sitting on here. As soon as you started talking about this, I was like, oh my God, I know what I've got to tell Melina about, and I just went straight and found it for you, and I'm ready to give it to you because the evidence already exists for what you're talking about. And I know this contradicts what I just said. But we're trying to seek the truth here. It doesn't matter what my position was, and I think you've made a great point, and I want to back it up. This was another one of her responses, Marjorie Taylor Greene's, to this series of conversations I'm talking about, the Cernovich one. She also said, typical of Republican men telling a woman to shut up and get back in the kitchen and fix me something to eat. Fuck you in the sweetest, most southern drawl I can enunciate. I've been trying to tell all you men that our kitchen pantry is empty with spider webs, our house has been ransacked, the windows and doors are broken and busted, and the greedy rich bastards have twisted your minds into a sick state that you all continue in the two-party toxic political system that acts like college football playoffs, yet is burying you and your children and their children and their children in a pine box in a shallow grave. Get off your ass and fix your own damn food and clean up the kitchen when you're done. That is the kind of hardcore conservative right-wing tough talking feminism that you're speaking about. She's already trying it. So maybe we're coming back to the strategy again. and so look, that kind of disproves me, but well done. But I got one more for you. But on the side of she's just venting and just pissed off. This is how she finished off. She did a lot of tweeting this particular day. This is how she finished off her tweeting. She said this just to all of Twitter. Only 20% of Americans are on X, and this is where the political industrial complex controls a hive mind with hyperpartisan politics. It's toxic, hateful, and divisive. Many accounts are paid and many are foreign, and they post and comment all day with targeted talking points in order to sway your opinion. However, it's not real life. Real life exists without a phone, tablet, or computer. Real life is tangible, involves relationships with people, productive work, and all the fun, amazing adventures the beautiful world has to offer. Real life amongst common Americans is what holds this country up and where the solutions for our future reside. Most of all, it's where happiness is. Now, she might be thinking about the suburban women with that tweet. They're not going to see that. The people who are going to see that are the people on Twitter. That's where she posted it. They're the exact people who'll be pissed off by that. And they're the people who, like I said, you'd think that she want to keep on side, and she's just told them, go out and touch grass, folks, which is, what you say to people online to piss them off. Look, maybe she's got a strategy and she's pissed off, and one dominates over the other at different times because she's a human being. She's not a robot. Sorry, we can't all be robots, Chaz. Yes, I know. Okay, fine. Maybe that's what's going on. But I'm definitely not as sure that she's been strategic as I used to be, seeing the self-destructive behaviour which keeps on coming up in my view. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think it is probably a bit of both, but at the moment, I'm sick of it all, I want to get out of here side is the dominant side.
Yeah.
Maybe she was trying the strategic thing and just kind of threw in the towel, but a bit of that is still coming out. But yeah, I think both things can be true pretty clearly, and there's evidence of both of those things in action at different times. And, she may or may not decide to run for office in the future. Like I say, I wouldn't be surprised at all if she runs for some kind of office in the future, because I think that she will miss being the center of the action. But yeah, I don't think she will win. And I think her frustration, as stated, I believe that it's genuine. I really do.
The other option, which I hadn't even considered, is that maybe she's the real life Bullworth. Maybe she's flipping out. Maybe she's going to become a rapper. For those who don't know what I'm referring to, Bulworth is a Warren Beatty film from the 90s, which was quite funny. It was quite good, about a politician who just completely flipped out. I'd like to see her with a backward cap on. That's all I'm saying. Melina, I think that unless you got anything else to add, I think we've well blown past the hour. But, I got so many comments people asking about the Marjorie Taylor Greene thing. Hey, we dealt with it. Thank you very much, Melina, and you showed me what was what, which I always appreciate.
Thank you. Thank you, Peppers. Have a good holiday and New Year.
Happy PEPmas, Melina. I'll see you in the new year. Love that sting. Thank you so much, Dan. That's a rollicking sting, which fits right in with the cracking fun we've been having with Beau and Melina. This has been good, this edition.
It really is what PEPmas is all about.
It is what PEPmas, this is the spirit of PEPmas you've been enjoying. Well, I'm afraid the spirit of PEPmas is about to become a lot less fun. We are dealing with a topic that I get a little bit depressed about, which is extrajudicial killings and the shitty culture war moment that has been spawned from it. Yeah, I'm afraid that the japes are about to stop, Lockie, but also I've got a lot to cram in here and not much time, so let's get into it. Venezuela.
Right, take us away, Chaz.
Yeah, now we're up to, I don't know what, last I saw was a couple of days ago. There have been 21 attacks on boats so far, 83 dead. It might be more. It's definitely not stopping. According to CBS, taking military action in Venezuela, polls at the moment, 30% to 70%, as in 30% approved military action in Venezuela, which, to be honest, is a bit of a worry, I think, given that they haven't come with any reasons to invade Venezuela, and 30% of people are already saying, yeah, take them out, let's go. Like, that's not far off some of the polls I remember from the Iraq War at various occasions. It's that, like, it was never very popular. 30% is getting into normal polling zones.
Wow.
Given they haven't even started with the propaganda yet. Having said that, that's not nearly as popular as just killing drug dealers in the Caribbean. 50% approval. 50% approval of the military attacking boats containing suspected drug smugglers in international waters, to 39% disapproval. The Democrats, even they approve of it 21%. They disapprove 71%. Republicans approve of it 85%, 8%. So look, the policy of blowing up drug dealers in international waters is popular. I wish it wasn't, but we need to face reality.
I guess drug dealers are that stigmatized that
I guess so.
You can do whatever you want.
I guess so. Yeah, it's popular. The question is it legal and does it make any sense? I'm going to firstly give you a quick recap where we are at on this legal, because it's worth recapping. It doesn't get talked about enough in the media, and it's just confusing. And the more you build all the justifications on top of each other, the more it seems like the world's worst Dr. Seuss book. So let's get into it. Number one, are there statutes saying that it's legal? No, there are not.
I was going to get you to give me a 50% chance there.
Sorry, you can assume the answer is no to almost every question I'm going to be asking you.
I would have got it wrong then.
There's no AUMF, for instance, which is an authorization for military force back in 2001 after 9/11. The military got an authorization of military force to chase after the people responsible for 9/11 and their allies. That's how the war on terror started. Okay, there's nothing like that for drug dealers. Okay, so there's no statute to chase after drug dealers and kill them like there was for the war on terror. Even if you call them narco-terrorists, they're still drug dealers. Okay, it's just they've just got a hardcore name. The War Powers Act, we'll get back to that in a second. It is legislation, but they're not even claiming it applies to them. So we'll come back to that. They have, according to statutes, designated foreign terrorist organizations, but that doesn't allow military force on its own. Designating an organization as a foreign terrorist organization just means that you can surveil them, you can impinge on their civil liberties and so forth. You can wage economic war on them, but you can't just murder them. There's no statutory support for that. The Maritime Drug Law Enforcement Act 1986 allows the Coast Guard to interdict these ships, take their drugs, arrest them, but not to murder them. It doesn't allow that. Okay, so there's no statutory defense. Is it self-defense? The US, one of its justifications is that it's under imminent threat from these ships.
Yeah.
No, it's not. That the boats lack the ability and the intent to even reach the United States, let alone to attack the United States when they reach here.
And we don't know if they're going to the United States.
No. We don't even know if the drugs are going to the United States. Yeah. Often Venezuela are selling drugs to Europe. And by the way, they're not selling fentanyl. They're selling cocaine.
Cocaina.
If anything, some of these are fishing boats, okay? The AP's looked into them. Some of them are fishing boats. Some of them are drug dealers. They are. Let's not pretend they're not.
Yeah.
Some of them are.
Sure.
You still can't shoot them.
Can't kill them.
Yeah. What about Obama's drones? People might be asking at this point in time. If you can kill people with drones, Obama can. How come Trump can't? This is just partisanship. No. Obama's drones were covered by the 2001 AUMF.
Yeah.
They were taking out terrorists, actual terrorists, not bullshit narco terrorists, actual terrorists. They were covered by statute. Also, the federal government generated some kind of criteria to determine whether the individuals that they were targeting were in fact members of the organizations they claimed to be part of. Whereas right now, they don't even say what the organizations are. They have a list of terrorist organizations, a very long list of terrorist organizations, supposedly narco-terrorist organizations, and they just tweet out, oh, these were narco-terrorists. They don't say which organisation. They don't say what their evidence is. They don't say what their proof is. With Obama, they had to jump through hoops for it to happen, right? That to prove that these people are members of that group.
I would genuinely settle for the tattoo finger translations again.
Those were the good old days, Lucky. And by the way, I'm not a fan of the Obama drone program. If you go back to Planet America and have a look, I was against it. But man, it looks like the high point of the rule of law.
Of obeying rules.
Yeah, compared to now. Yeah. Also, virtually all the strikes of the Obama drones program were in places like Yemen. Places where there's no government, where there's anarchy and chaos, and there's no other way to get them.
Right, yeah.
If there's a terrorist who turns up in London, do you think Obama's sending a drone to blow up the Buckingham Palace? No. What they do is they call the police. They call a Bobby to turn up with their machine gun. For some reason, Bobbies either have truncheons or machine guns. They turn up with their machine gun and they'd arrest them.
Yeah.
That's what would happen because you have law and order and control in London. In Yemen, you don't. The only way you get them is by blowing them up.
Sure.
All right?
Yeah.
There was no other way to get them. In this case, they're in the Caribbean. The Coast Guard is there.
Yeah, the Coast Guard.
There is a giant aircraft carrier there. They could intercept them anytime they want.
How much of the current military is there?
It's like a third of the Navy. It's a lot, right? Not to mention all the countries that they're trying to get these people from. Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador. They've all got police.
Yep.
Like, even if you don't rate Venezuela, at least Colombia and Ecuador do. And they but, I mean, look, Maduro's a dictator, but there's still some law and order in Venezuela.
Yeah.
If you could prove that they were terrorists, you could work with Maduro to get them. And if you can't, fine, intercept them by sea. You've got the boats there, use them. Don't just shoot them. The War Powers Act. I said it didn't apply before. Let me just remind you of the War Powers situation. They say the War Powers Act doesn't apply to them. Why? Because the operation only comprises of precise strikes conducted largely by unmanned aerial vehicles launched from naval vessels in international waters at distances too far away for the crews of the targeted vessels to endanger American personnel. Thus, this is the quote, the kinetic operations underway do not rise to the level of hostilities. I can't say this enough. They are arguing that they are engaged in an armed conflict, but they're not hostilities.
That checks out.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Like, talk about Dr. Seuss. Like, that is nuts. And it's worse. According to the Democrat House Rep Sarah Jacobs, who finally got a briefing, they don't give out many of these briefings. They told the Democrats that they don't even need to positively identify the individuals on these vessels to conduct the strikes. They don't need to know who they are. They just need to prove that there's some connection to a designated terrorist organization or affiliate. So they can murder
Just
you.
mates.
Yeah, they can murder you if you are vaguely associated with one of these vague groups that they have designated as foreign terrorist organizations or narco-terrorists, whatever that means.
So lawless.
It's completely lawless. So it's just getting worse and worse. The actual Southern Command who are conducting this seem to be rebelling against it. They're getting it. They need to sign non-disclosure agreements at the moment.
Again, a real symbol of faith in
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Well, as Tim Kaine said, you wouldn't do that if you weren't of a belief that there's serious division within the ranks about the legality and wisdom of this strategy. The guy in charge of the Southern Command, Admiral Alvin Halsey, he's the guy in charge of the entire command for this operation. He announced his resignation as soon as the program started.
Far out.
He was stepping down after less than a year in a job that lasts about 3 years typically, and he hasn't said why so far.
Yeah, he doesn't need to.
Yeah. There's lawsuits happening as well at the moment. The families of some of the people killed in the Caribbean, they're staying to sue. They say they can prove that their family members were fishermen, not narco-terrorists.
Wow. Okay.
And they're going to try to sue the federal government. I don't fancy their chances. It's a tough lawsuit to make. But what it does do is build pressure and bad PR. Although it might be helped by the fact that the United States Navy has been rescuing survivors of one of the boat strikes and then
I remember this.
sending them back home without charges. You don't do that to terrorists. If you've got an actual terrorist, you interrogate them.
Yeah.
Like if there was a real terrorist threat in America, like a real terrorist threat. Let me tell you what we'd be arguing about right now and I'd be angry about.
Yeah.
I'd be angry about Trump torturing people. If there was a real terrorist threat,
Of course.
he'd be torturing people, trying to find out where the ticking time bomb was. And I'd be going, this is lawless. This is horrible.
This whole chat would be about Gitmo too.
Yeah. But there is no terrorist threat, so they're not doing that. Instead, they're operating like Uber for these dudes because they got nothing to charge them with. All right, they're not an actual threat. So this is really dodgy. Now, that's all recap. This week we learnt more about how this program began, and none of it, Lockie, is good. The Washington Post had a huge piece on this. They've been wanting to do this apparently since they took office. In particular, Trump and guess who?
Stephen Miller.
You only need one guess.
Yeah.
He's involved in everything that's awful. Trump and Stephen Miller in particular wanted to do this. It wasn't based on legal advice or anything Maduro has been doing or narco-terrorism. They just wanted to bomb drug boats. And then they came up with the justifications months later. Jeez. But from the beginning, they wanted to bomb drug boats. Originally, it was going to be a CIA covert operation. Although apparently
covert? So when Trump gets asked about it in a presser?
Yeah. Don't worry about that.
No?
Don't worry about that. I mean, you're right.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be very discreet.
Yeah.
But don't worry about that. Steve Miller wanted to tweet out videos of drug labs and boats being blown up, like they have. So much for these guys don't know what covert means. The CIA lawyers, though,
it's like that scene in, again, Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Where's something inconspicuous?
Yes.
Yes.
It is a bit like that. The CIA lawyers, though, amazingly pushed back. I mean, how crappy must the situation be when the CIA covert operations are going
pulling you up?
Have you heard have you talked to the lawyers about this? The CIA lawyers was asking, is killing civilian drug traffickers defensible under domestic law? If the cartels don't actually seek to attack Americans, can you kill them? Even if the product they smuggle does lead to death in the United States, and we can't prove it does, can you kill them? Is it legal to kill drug traffickers, even if they're just low-level drug traffickers, without you even knowing their identities? Is that legal, they asked? These are great questions from the CIA lawyers, I feel. Obvious questions. I wish someone else would ask those questions.
If the greatest compliment you can get as a journalist is getting assassinated by the CIA, then the most offensive thing that can ever happen to you is the CIA asking you, is this ethical?
Yes, absolutely. And they did. And that was too much of a drag for Steve Miller. Sorry, the legal demands of the CIA covert operations team was just too exacting for Stephen Miller. So they moved on to the military instead. They got the military to carry it out. That was when they started coming up with their justifications of the US was in a non-international armed conflict with a designated terrorist organization. At first, there were a heap of national security experts who opposed this. And they just said, this can't be legal. But then people got distracted by the Iran campaign. Guys, only one bombing at a time. Please, get in line. There's only so many bombs we can hand out. And many of the lawyers over this period of like 3-4 months where they were worrying about Iran and other stuff, many of the lawyers who originally waved a red flag going, you can't do this. They got replaced. They got disappeared. They got reassigned. They got removed. The National Security Council's full-time legal staff started at 6 people, ended up with 0 people. They literally have a 0 legal staff now. They're the people who are supposed to approve of this kind of stuff. The former Pentagon General Counsel Paul Ney raised concerns about the legality of strikes, and they got rid of him back in May. All that was left in the building, I believe, of the National Security Council was Marco Rubio and the highest powered comb you've ever seen. Then the operation started, but the pushback didn't end there. Marine Colonel Paul Maher, the senior judge advocate general at the U.S. Southern Command in Miami, warned the strikes could be considered extrajudicial killings and therefore legally expose service members involved in the operations. Now, to be clear, he was the top lawyer for the command overseeing the military operation. It was his remit. He was the foremost authority about military law in that command.
Yeah.
He was the guy, and he said no.
Wow.
And he got overruled by officials at the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel.
Whoa.
For what's worth, I should say, Chief Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell denies anyone raised concerns to any attorneys in the chain of command regarding the legality of the strikes conducted thus far. If you're really gullible, you can believe that. I don't. Right. One group disagrees with Sean Parnell at the very least, and that is the troops who are conducting these operations, who are now getting nervous, Lockie. This week we heard that even troops on the ground are demanding some kind of memo because they're fearing potential legal exposure. They want proof that they've been given the go-ahead by military lawyers before they take part in strikes. Some personnel think they're going to need attorneys in the future. They think that these are current and former officials who think that they got concerns that new administration and lawmakers of the future might scrutinize their operation and charge them.
Sounds like they should be lining up for presidential pardons.
I tell you what, depending on how this goes, I wouldn't be surprised if they're coming.
Yeah.
The DOJ Office of Legal Counsel, it did respond and produce a classified opinion to shield service members from the prosecution in future. It's been secret for weeks. Now that's how you know you've got some solid legal advice when they keep it secret. They finally let some Congress people see it in a secure room. They had like 20 copies they were allowed to read and leave there. Great legal advice, I'm sure. Bulletproof legal advice. Give to the boats. Rather than reassuring people, it actually seems to have had the opposite effect. And by the way, I love how every day there seems to be a new, different justification for this operation. Yeah, because they know every justification they come up with is crap. It's like in the AFL. I'm an AFL supporter. When you want to trade for an A-grade player, and you've got nothing because your team is crap, you often try and bundle
You're
up.
not naming teams?
No names. No, AFL. I take that too seriously. You bundle up 7 or 8 C-graders and go, here you go. Take all these guys who wouldn't make your team. They're equal to one A-grader. This is the legal justification version of bullshit trading. Never works out, guys. Let me tell you, some of my teams have tried that in the past. This is a terrible justification, and it's different as well. Their theory in this case is that narcotics on the boats are lawful military targets because their cargo generates revenue for cartels who the Trump administration claims are in the armed conflict. So they're saying that they sell these drugs for money, and they use the money
to buy guns.
For this shooting war with America. Where's the shooting war? Where is it? Where's this happening?
I can show you where people are shooting up.
There might be a shooting up war coming. Yeah, that's fair. But the only bullets being fired are into the heads of the drug dealers in the Caribbean, and it's from one side. And they're not paying for those weapons with drugs. Right? It's, remember, the original justification was the reason it was an armed conflict is because the drugs were the arms.
Were the weapons of mass destruction, killing 281 million people a year or
exactly.
something.
That was the original argument. They were saying that Trump is saving 25,000 lives every single boat he blows up because those drugs are being sent over and they're the imminent danger for our country. That was their argument.
Yep.
And now they're saying, no, it's not the drugs that are the arms.
The arms that are the arms.
Yeah, the drugs are paying for the arms and the arms, but we don't know where the arms are. We're not going to tell you.
We've been here before.
Yeah. Also, the memo accepts all the White House's assertions of an armed conflict, just completely uncritically.
Cool. Great.
Even though it's obviously not the case. It cites the White House's claim that cartels are responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands of Americans a year, even though we know that's fentanyl from Mexico that's causing all those deaths, not cocaine from Venezuela, which may or may not be going to America anyway. A lot of people say it's just going to Europe. They can't prove any of this. The memo also cites violence by drug cartels and the security forces of other governments in the region, like Colombia's, like Mexico's, and it says that the United States can attack the cartels to defend Colombia and Mexico in collective self-defense, which would be a wonderful argument if they weren't blowing up Colombian boats as well, who aren't, by the way, necessary members of any cartel. Also, on fentanyl...
They could be affiliated, though.
They could be affiliates. I could be an affiliate. This is... yes. Honestly, we're getting to the drug version of Kevin Bacon when we're talking about some of these rules. Also, on fentanyl, I should say it's less of a problem now than it used to be. Compared to 2024, there's a 24% decline in drug overdose deaths. In America, 45% less fentanyl being intercepted on the border, 49% less seizures over air and sea. Yeah, Trump should take the win here.
I was going to say, yeah, surely that's because of what he's scared people into.
Yeah, he should say, look, it's because we're being tough on the border. Sure.
It's because of tariffs.
Yeah, he could say whatever he likes. The fact is the drug overdose deaths are going down, but he's just pretending it's a massive problem. Well, yeah, and the problem's never been worse. So he can just blow up some drug
Kill
dealers.
some more people. Jeez.
Yeah. Either way, it's yesterday's problem and he's just lying about it. One more thing. Trump is saying he has to kill drug smugglers because drug interdiction is totally ineffective. That's his logic.
Except for the fact that it's gone down for him.
He's just ignoring those stats.
Gee.
But don't worry, those stats. I got better stats than that. I got Pam Bondi's stats.
Oh, okay.
Remember, Trump's drug interdictions earlier this year saved 258 million
Saved that
lives.
number, yeah.
Yeah, you get that in media? Yeah, that's right. Imagine how many lives he would have saved if they were effective. Anyway, particularly sus is the memo that has a whole section. This is one of their defense memos. Has a whole section on legal defenses if anyone in the chain of command happens to get charged in future.
I've said it a few times already, but that speaks of real confidence.
Yeah. How legal could this operation possibly be when they feel they need to put in your defense for when you get charged? You know, I bet McDonald's franchises don't have clauses about what you should say when you inevitably get arrested for opening the franchise. Legal operations don't do that. Unless, of course, the justification is obvious pretext and bullshit. I'm going to leave you in this section with an interesting quote to The Intercept from one senior defense official, Lockie. I don't know what's more insane, that the president of peace, in inverted commas, is starting an illegal war, or that he's giving a get-out-of-jail-free card to the US military. Hopefully they realise there's no immunity for war crimes, nor is there a statute of limitations. That quote, let me remind you, came from a current senior defense official. That's not a quote you want to hear from current senior defense officials, Lockie.
It is not.
Now, that all leads us, that's all prelude to the next section, which is one of the biggest stories of the week. Not that. Not all the people being murdered and the shithouse justification. One of the biggest stories of the week is from the culture war. It has all the trappings of a stupid culture war story, but it's about a very serious question. It's about those people that we just talked about, the troops, who are a little bit confused about whether they're committing crimes or not. Let me play you a video which you almost certainly have seen this week.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day
to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Like us, you all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
And right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law
or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army,
or Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
the American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
Pretty stirring music there, I'm lucky. Surprised one of those people were reading the auto cue wasn't a bald eagle. But look, I would note they're all moderates. You got Lisa Slocum, Mark Kelly, Chris Deluzio, Maggie Goodlander, Chrissy Houlihan, Jason Crow. Okay, they're all moderates. They're not bomb throwers. None of them are into partisan hackery, so we should note that. But I should also note that what they're saying is correct. According to the Uniform Code of Military Justice, I'll quote it, an unlawful order is a directive issued by someone in a position of authority that violates the law or a person's rights or ethical principles. Following such orders can have legal consequences for both the person giving the order and the one executing it. Now, this suggestion was rebutted by many people, including the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. This is Carolyn Levitt.
But they were suggesting, again, to the 1.3 million active duty service members in the military today that if you think an order is illegal, you don't have to follow it. Actually, that's against the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It explicitly states, and I want to read this language precisely, that service members have a legal obligation under the U.S. UCMJ to obey lawful orders, and that orders are presumed to be lawful. You can't have a soldier out on the battlefield or conducting a classified order questioning whether that order is lawful or whether they should follow through. There must be a chain of command in our military, and Republicans and Democrats for decades, since the beginning of our country, have always respected that until now when the Democrat Party has been completely overtaken by Trump derangement syndrome.
She's right, by the way, that orders are presumed lawful. That is correct.
Okay.
She left out a little bit though, Lockie.
Oh.
Let me quote Georgetown Uni law professor Marty Lederman. As the Judge Advocate General Handbook explains, subordinates in the military chain of command must presume in the ordinary course that orders of superiors in the lawful chain of command are themselves lawful. Okay, so presuming it's lawful. Even so, in a rare case where an order seems unlawful, the subordinate should not carry it out right away, but should not ignore it either. She should instead immediately and respectfully seek clarification of that order, and if after receiving a clarification or after being informed that no clarification is forthcoming, a reasonable person would recognize the wrongfulness of the act or order, even in light of a soldier's general duty to obey, then the order is manifestly illegal and soldiers have a duty to disobey it. Okay? Now, to be clear, soldiers have been jailed for not disobeying orders.
Okay. Wow.
Obviously, the Nuremberg trials famously was the case there. When they said we were following orders, and they were, and they still went to jail. But even in the American context, after the My Lai massacre during the Vietnam War, the people who followed the orders to massacre those people in cold blood, they went to jail for not defying orders. So it's a question of what would a reasonable person think in those circumstances, right?
Sure.
So what they're saying in that video is 100% correct. Here is my problem. My problem is, why did they make this video? Are they suggesting Trump has already handed down the legal orders? Or are they suggesting he's currently handing down the legal orders? If so, I agree with them. But they didn't say that, did they?
No, they didn't refer to any order.
No, they didn't. Allow me to quote the USMJ again. Here are some examples of unlawful orders. A superior orders a soldier to engage in war crimes, such as targeting civilians internationally, torturing prisoners of war, looting or pillaging property. A commanding officer orders personnel to suppress lawful protests in violation of First Amendment rights, violations of international laws. So right off the bat, we can see there that some suspect areas exist there for Trump. Targeting civilians internationally sounds like blowing up boats in the Caribbean. Criminals are still civilians, Lucky. Targeting criminals intentionally is a violation. It's an illegal order.
Yeah.
It's a violation of the USMJ. And also, of course, suppressing lawful protest sounds a little bit like what happened in LA. But let's leave that aside. I think Trump has been issuing illegal orders in the Caribbean. I think they know that. I think everyone knows that.
Yes.
I think the lawyers definitely know that. And if these people agree, they should say so. But this is what they actually said when they were confronted with the question, what orders are you talking about?
So I think the reason we put that statement out is because the sheer number of, frankly, young officers who are coming to us and saying, I just am not sure. What do I do? You know, I'm in Southcom and I'm involved in the National Guard. I'm just not sure. What do I do? And I think, look, you don't have to take my word for it. We've had report after report of legal officer, JAG officers coming forward and saying, look, I push back on this. I'm not sure that this is legal. There is such things as illegal orders. That's why it's in the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Going back to Nuremberg, right? And it's a totally benign statement.
So let's talk right now. Do you believe President Trump has issued any illegal orders?
To my knowledge, I am not aware of things that are illegal, but certainly there are some legal gymnastics that are going on with these Caribbean strikes and everything related to Venezuela.
I'm confused. Are they not allowed to accuse him of giving illegal orders?
No, they're allowed.
Okay.
They're just being gutless.
Oh, that's a way more disappointing answer.
Do you think that he's do you think he's issuing illegal orders or not? It's very simple.
Yeah. And you'd look cool by saying yes. Surely it's in their favour.
To me, this sounds weak.
Sure.
Say, oh, maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. No, there's some legal gymnastics going on. Either he has or he hasn't.
Very poor gymnastics.
Yes. If you think he has, then you should say so. If you think he hasn't, then what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really confused. What's the point?
Yeah.
If you're not going to accuse him.
They say this is about helping our confused young troops. That's what she said.
I'm confused now.
How does this help confused young troops? How is that informing them? Surely this would make them only more confused. Just so you know, you may be breaking the law. Are you? I don't know. Good luck.
Beats me, pal.
Good luck.
Too hard to tell.
Yeah, that doesn't help confused young troops. If they cared about the young troops, at the very least, they should explain the law to them. They should explain the thought process they have to go through, the actual legal test. Now, I know that's not a fun promotional video. It's not a great viral hit. But if the reason you did this is to help out young troops, that's what you do. You'd be very, very careful and specific in your explanation of what the troops need to ask themselves to know whether they should follow those orders. Because this is confusing. This is grey. This isn't this is not sharp lines here. So they need to be very, very careful in the way they explain this.
I'm trying to get into the heads of posting that video. So you don't want to start the culture war?
I think they're worried about potential legal ramifications if they get wrong.
Okay.
I think they're definitely worried about being seen to be undermining
the US's national security.
Yeah,
sure.
I think that as I said, I think they're just being gutless.
Okay, so there's reasons to be scared.
Yeah,
but
I'm not saying it's not rational. I'm saying it's gutless.
No. Yeah, and I think I'm agreeing.
And if you're too gutless to make the call, don't make the video. Because they're not making things better for the troops that they're supposedly supporting there.
Is there a chance they think they're raising awareness for the Venezuelan issue?
Awareness of what? They're not mentioning the Venezuelan issue in their ad.
Of course they're not.
Right? They're
Yep.
just being vague. Explain something, for Christ. They don't explain anything in that video. Or, alternatively, just admit it's a political message. Just admit the reason we're doing this is because we're trying to throw some shade on Trump that he's a dictator and he breaks lots of laws and we're just being political. It's not about the troops at all. This is just a political message. If you admit that, fine. There's lots of crap messages online. This can be one more of those crap messages. But if you're acting like there's some kind of highfalutin constitutional reason for this and that you're just trying to help out the troops, that's bullshit. They're not helping the troops at all. That's my problem with this. I think they should be helping the troops because this is a tough situation for someone who's been given a drone remote control and told to murder someone, and they're not sure if they should be doing that or not. They should, like, if someone made a video helping them out about how to make their decision, what they should be asking themselves, what the legal tests are, that would be really valuable. That's all I'm saying. So I don't like this video. It's not illegal, but I don't like it.
Can I I'm not sure if this is a thing that you'd know, but is there other resources that they've done to provide where they go, and come and ask us if you are more concerned? Because it sounds like in that interview on CNN that they're talking to troops.
I have every confidence if a young soldier came up to one of them and asked them for details, they'd give them details.
Okay,
I've got no doubt about that.
No, it's the video that sure.
I've got no doubt if a troop came up to them and said, "Tell me what you think of the Venezuela operation," they'd tell them.
Yeah,
I'm sure they would.
Okay, cool.
But it's neither here nor there.
Sure.
It's but bottom line, I think the critics are right. They're trying to throw shade on Trump using the idea of the troops, which is kind of like politicizing the military. And I don't think they should be doing that. They shouldn't be politicizing the military. It's not sedition, but I think it's a bit shit and it's a bit cheap. And if they cared about the troops, it's irresponsible, in my view. Now, this is just a viral video. Let's not blow it up. Right?
It's not a Venezuelan boat.
Hey, yeah.
Sorry.
Unfortunate wording. Let's not turn this into a federal case, quite literally. It's just a viral video. It's not a massive promotional campaign. It's just social media, mate. You see this kind of thing every week. Mark Kelly and his military friends recorded a very similar video last month about the National Guard in US cities. Scored 5,000 views on Facebook. Okay, that's what Planet America gets on videos when we don't do well.
That's a shame.
Yeah, okay.
Oh boy, I've done better than that.
Yeah, no one cared. But there was one key difference in this case here. One key difference that made this viral. Like many terrible things in America at the moment, Stephen Miller got mixed up in it. He turned up on Fox News and he said this.
Look, there is nothing graver that you could possibly say as a United States Senator than encouraging, urging, directing members of the armed forces of the United States or the clandestine services of the United States to defy their president, defy their chain of command, defy their superiors. To say such a thing would require you to have and to present to the nation some extraordinary scandal beyond even our wildest imagination, which of course they don't have, because every single thing that this president has done has been not only lawful, but has been repairing and reversing the unlawful and unconstitutional behavior of the previous administration, which opened our nation's borders up to millions of illegal aliens and foreign terrorists and gang leaders and cartel operatives and everyone else threatening peace, safety, and public order in the United States. So this conduct by these lawmakers is a direct attack on this republic.
No overstatement there from Stephen Miller, as per usual. A direct
Every
attack.
single thing this president has done is lawful.
It's a direct attack on the republic. That made it a big story. And then Trump made it a huge story by tweeting relentlessly about it. First, he tweeted this. It's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Each one of these traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. We won't have a country anymore. An example must be set. President DJT. Then 9 minutes later.
Oh my goodness.
This is really bad and dangerous to our country. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. Seditious behavior from traitors. Lock them up. President DJT.
We're reaching Elon Musk levels of speed between tweets again. I like it.
Yeah, 64 minutes later. Seditious behavior. Punishable by death. Then, by death. Then there's the retweets. He retweeted, hang them, George Washington would. What the
Oh, wait, that's a retweet.
Yeah, it's a
He's
retweet.
That's not him. That's someone else. Okay, yep.
Do you remember when conservatives were worried about the violent rhetoric from Democrats after Charlie Kirk died? Those days are long gone. Also, ironically, all these instructions from the Commander-in-Chief that I just read out to you, because he's the guy pushing DOJ officers around, this guy. Every one of those commands, ironically, is probably an unlawful order. Every one of them. Then the next day, he was still going on with it. But now, he was in 100% caps. The traitors that told the military to disobey my orders should be in jail right now, not roaming the fake news networks trying to explain that what they said was okay. It wasn't and never will be. It was sedition at the highest level, and sedition is a major crime. There can be no other interpretation of what they said. 10 minutes later, many great legal scholars agree that the Democrat traitors that told the military to disobey my orders as president have committed a crime of serious proportion.
Is Lindsay Halligan one of those many great legal scholars?
I don't think there's any. I don't think even she would speak in the kind of caps that he's speaking here. On about day 3, he clarified he didn't mean them to die.
What they said is, and it was, I mean, I don't know about the modern day things because, modern day is a lot softer. But in the old days, if you said a thing like that, that was punishable by death.
Yeah, but you're not threatening them. A lot of people are interpreting there's a threat and there's security.
Well, I'm not threatening them, but I think they're in serious trouble. I would say they're in serious trouble. I'm not threatening death, but I think they're in serious trouble. In the old days, it was death.
Oh, that's nice. But he kept on tweeting through Sunday anyway. AI videos of the 6 lawmakers in jail. There they are, being locked up. George Washington would not hang them. Can I just say that? When he captured more than 900 British prisoners of war in 1776, he didn't just not hang them. He ordered the troops do them no harm, and he didn't even send them to prisons. He sent them to farms and allowed them to work. George Washington isn't hanging anybody. You couldn't get a less Trumpy leader than George Washington. So don't worry about that. Obviously, that's a ridiculous overreaction.
Yes.
I thought conservative legal analyst Andy McCarthy put it quite well, with a tinge of disgust. There is no insurrection or sedition without the use of force. Disobeying a lawful order is insubordination, not insurrection or sedition. Disobeying an unlawful order is required. That is all.
That is all.
Yes.
That's so much cooler than thank you for your attention to this matter.
Yes. He did well there, Andy McCarthy. I like his work. Okay, so why did Trump make it such a big deal? Now, we've seen this a lot in the past. He's so narcissistic and deluded.
This is what they were scared of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah. Like, he thinks he is the state. When Miles Taylor wrote an enormous critique of his administration in the New York Times in 2018, Trump called it treasonous. He called the January 6th committee treasonous, even though he wasn't even president anymore. In 2018, when describing Democrats not cheering enough for him at the State of the Union, admittedly lightheartedly, he still referred to it as treasonous.
And it got to a point where I really didn't even want to look too much during the speech over to that side, because honestly, it was bad energy. No, it was bad energy. You're up there. You've got half the room going totally crazy, wild. They loved everything. They want to do something great for our country. And you have the other side, even on positive news, really positive news like that, they were like death and un-American. Un-American. Somebody said treasonous. I mean, yeah, I guess why not? Can we call that treason? Why not? I mean, they certainly didn't seem to love our country very much.
Now, he wasn't being serious there, but the mindset is very clear. In 2017, when Rod Rosenstein said they should record all their conversations around the president, he said that was treasonous. I think he had special reasons for flipping out here, though. It wasn't just the usual treason. He's trying to send a message to the troops.
Oh.
He knows he's likely to be using these guys very soon one day to do some hardcore shit, putting down protesters. He knows that's coming.
Right, yeah.
Taking over cities.
And they're confused.
Yeah. They're already confused. And he knows he's going to be asking them to put down protests, take over cities. He wants
Shoot
to
him
nip
in the legs.
Yeah, he wants to nip this whole protest in the bud right now. Make an example out of Mark Kelly and friends. He might discourage some confused, scared young troop from speaking up when it matters down the track. This is an important message he wants to send, not to Mark Kelly, but to the people who might matter down the track.
Wow.
And that's another reason I wish they'd made the video properly with real advice. Wouldn't have been catchy, wouldn't have been viral, might have made America a better place. Number two, the UCMJ, huge problem for Trump, the military justice manual, because they clearly want to use the military to suppress dissent. That whole unlawful orders thing, that can get in their way badly. They want to ram it into the troops' brains.
You can't, yeah.
You better not cross us. You better not cross us, or you'll get court-martialed. So that's what I think is going on here. I think he's overreacting on purpose. Not only does he have a personal, emotional reaction to being challenged in any way, shape, or form,
but it's a real efficient control method of the troops.
I think if he's not thinking this, Steve Miller certainly is.
Yeah,
that's what I think. Okay, what's the reaction to the reaction? I've got to be quick here. We're running out of time. The Democrats, they obviously love this. Trump talking about killing people, hanging people. They love it.
Even I saw this on holiday.
They love it. They love it. This is perfect dictator material. They love this. Especially bomb throwers like Chris Murphy, who are not at all interested in cutting through crap. They just want to deliver more crap. Look at this.
The President of the United States just called for Democratic members of Congress to be executed. This is not normal. We cannot allow this to feel normal. This, as far as I know, has never happened before in the history of the country. Every Democratic member of the Senate and the House, their life is in jeopardy right now, especially those that were specifically targeted by this social media post. Democratic senators and House members who were simply saying that no member of the military should act illegally or in violation of the Constitution. The President of the United States just called for members of Congress to be executed. If you are a person of influence in this country, maybe it's time to pick a fucking side.
I mean, I could not agree more that this is not normal. You know, that's my catchphrase. And Trump's tweeting, completely unacceptable. But you can't tell me that Chris Murphy isn't relishing the opportunity to do his sweary, serious thing he likes so much.
I love when they swear at the end of things. It's very cool.
I also think you're kidding yourself if you don't think that people like Mark Kelly haven't been dealing with death threats for a decade. US politics is just sick right now. Like we said, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I found...
We're all agreeing with Marjorie.
Yes.
We're all there.
Oh, Marjorie. I found it a bit troubling when Democrat Senator Galejo suggested there might be consequences for the troops.
Donald Trump's going to be gone a couple years. And if you're part of the military that is going after sitting senators, sitting members of Congress, and part of, the weaponization of government, there will be consequences, without a doubt. So, I think there's going to be a lot of officers that are going to be part of this, potential tribunal, if they want to call that. They're going to be looking over their shoulders because they know that Donald Trump will be gone and they will not have that protection. They're going to have to do the safest thing possible, which is follow the Constitution of the United States, and you'll be fine.
Look, he could have gone harder there. He wasn't trying to be full-on threatening. But in my book, it's kind of a veiled threat. Kind of. It's not really having the troops' backs, like Mark Kelly said they were doing, at the very least. The last thing the troops need, especially young officers who are a bit confused, the last thing they need is to be threatened and pressured from both sides, especially when they're in...
They would be so confused.
Yeah, especially when they're in a theatre of war somewhere down the track.
Yeah.
The response from the video makers themselves was actually, it was reasonable, but telling. They put out a group statement. We're veterans and national security professionals who love this country and swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. That oath lasts a lifetime and we intend to keep it. No threat, intimidation, or call for violence will deter us from that sacred obligation. What's most telling is that the President considers it punishable by death for us to restate the law. Our service members should know that we have their backs as they fulfill their oath to the Constitution and an obligation to follow only lawful orders. It's not only the right thing to do, but also our duty. But this isn't about any one of us. This isn't about politics. This is about who we are as Americans. Every American must unite and condemn the President's calls for our murder and political violence. This is a time for moral clarity. In these moments, fear is contagious, but so is courage. We will continue to lead and will not be intimidated. Don't give up the ship. Joint statement from me, Senator Slotkin, Reps Crow, Deluzio, Goodlander, and Hulan. That was Mark Kelly.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Well, what's with the ship thing? They're really living on that.
I guess that's a military phrase.
Sure, but it's not a reference to boats shooting down boats?
No.
Okay.
No. The reason I said that was telling, do you notice how the statement wasn't about their message anymore, about following illegal orders?
No. It was about, we're getting threatened now.
Yeah.
They can finally name a specific legal order. Yeah.
That's right. Look, they mentioned it very briefly, the illegal orders thing, but they were very happy to have their message be hijacked by a focus on Trump's death threats.
Yeah.
That to them, great. And it just made the whole story about Trump's response, which it did become about Trump's response. And it makes me think, yet again, the original message wasn't all that serious. It was mostly a political jab. Now, to his credit, Mark Kelly was excellent. He's always measured. He's always reasonable. In response to Stephen Miller tweeting that the Democrat lawmakers are now openly calling for insurrection, he tweeted, I got shot at serving our country in new combat, and I was there when your boss sent a violent mob to attack the Capitol. I know the difference between defending our Constitution and an insurrection, even if you don't. That's at least on message. Okay, so then we've got the White House response to the reaction. This is...
We're in reaction.
We are. Well, this is how these culture war battles go, Lockie.
Yeah, okay, I know. It's still sad.
This is Carolyn Levitt.
Just to be clear, does the president want to execute members of Congress?
No. Let's be clear about what the president is responding to, because many in this room want to talk about the president's response, but not what brought the president to responding in this way. You have sitting members of the United States Congress who conspired together to orchestrate a video message to members of the United States military, to active duty service members, to members of the national security apparatus, encouraging them to defy the president's lawful orders. The sanctity of our military rests on the chain of command. And if that chain of command is broken, it can lead to people getting killed. It can lead to chaos. And that's what these members of Congress who swore an oath to abide by the Constitution are essentially encouraging. We have 1.3 active duty service members in this country. And if they hear this radical message from sitting members of Congress, that could inspire chaos, and it could incite violence, and it certainly could disrupt the chain of command.
Pretty clear she's blurring lawful orders with unlawful orders there. Obviously, soldiers do hear that message in their training all the time. It's official army policy, so that's a bit much for mine. Pete Hegseth was interesting. His first reaction was actually one of the most reasonable. It was simply stage 4 TDS, which I thought, yeah, that's fair enough. That's to that video, saying, there's all these maybe illegal orders, who knows? He's going, this is over the top. I mean, I don't agree with him. I think they are illegal orders, but I think from his perspective, I think that's a reasonable response. Stage 4 TDS. That's Trump derangement syndrome, we don't know. But then as Trump went on with it and made it a thing, then he started to ramp up the rhetoric too.
Okay, sure.
The video made by the Seditious Six was despicable, reckless, and false. Encouraging our warriors to ignore the orders of their commanders undermines every aspect of good order and discipline. Their foolish screed sows doubt and confusion, which only puts our warriors in danger.
Seditious Six is giving them way too cool a branding. That's helping them out, to be honest.
I'm sure they loved it.
Yeah.
And finally, after being cajoled and pressured by Trump, he got official. The despicable video, he's becoming tougher by the second. The despicable video urging the Department of War troops to refuse illegal orders may seem harmless to civilians, but it carries a different weight inside the military. This is a politically motivated influence operation. It never named a specific illegal order. It carried ambiguity rather than clarity. I agree with him. It used carefully scripted legal-sounding language. I agree with him. It subtly reframed military obedience around partisan distrust instead of established legal processes. I agree with him. In the military, vague rhetoric and ambiguity undermines trust, creates hesitation in the chain of command, and erodes cohesion. Okay, he's lost me now.
I was going to say, yeah, and we love that.
The military already has clear procedures for handling unlawful orders. It does not need political actors injecting doubt into an already clear chain of command.
I agree with him.
Yes. As veterans of various sorts, the Seditious Six knew exactly what they were doing, sowing doubt through a politically motivated influence operation. The Department of War won't fall for it or stand for it. And now there are investigations, Lockie. The Department of Justice has opened an investigation into the Seditious Six. The FBI is scheduling interviews with all of them. Not sure what the charges would be. Treason? That's waging war in the United States or supporting its wartime enemies. They didn't do that. Seditious conspiracy? That's a plot involving the use of force to overthrow the US government or oppose authority. There's no force here. Obviously, any law would break the Supreme Court free speech principles. Mark Kelly is facing even more issues because out of the 6 people, he's the only one who's reached 20 years in the service, which means he's an official military retiree and is eligible to be recalled to the military. Hence, Hegseth is now threatening to recall him and court-martial him. Whoa. The Department of Defense has apparently initiated a review of serious allegations against Kelly to decide if he should be recalled to active duty for court-martial proceedings or administrative measures. We know that because he tweeted out the memo he sent to the Navy Secretary asking for a full review of Kelly's comments on the video. He said he expected a brief no later than December 10, Lockie. And the Department of War has tweeted out about the serious allegations of misconduct. They cite USC Section 688 and other applicable regulations. A thorough review of those allegations has been initiated, they say, to determine further actions. They also cite... They remind all individuals, the military retirees, remain subject to the UCMJ for applicable offences, and federal laws, such as Section 2387, prohibit actions intended to interfere with the loyalty, morale, or good order and discipline of the armed forces. Any violations will be addressed through appropriate legal channels. All service members are reminded that they have a legal obligation under the UCMJ to obey lawful orders and that orders are presumed to be lawful. A service member's personal philosophy does not justify or excuse the disobedience of an otherwise lawful order. Okay, so he mentioned two laws there. Mm-hmm. Section 688 prohibits contempt towards officials. It applies to any commissioned officer who uses contemptuous words against the President, Vice President, Congress, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of the Military Department, the Secretary of Homeland Security, or the Governor or Legislature of any state, commonwealth, or possession in which he's on duty or present.
Doesn't say anything about the Secretary of War, though. So you can say whatever you want about Pete.
That's clever, but they didn't say anyone. In that video, they didn't mention anyone.
No. Yeah.
So,
or anything.
Yeah, that's right. So it doesn't apply. They're not contemptuous words against anyone. Is Kelly a commissioned officer when he's retired? We don't even know. They don't mention officials. They don't mention anything. So that's not going to be that. Section 2387. We should say Trump retweeted a number of videos calling for them to be charged under 2387. And if Kelly's found guilty, he's facing 10 years in prison. That's the one that prohibits actions intended to interfere with the loyalty, morale, or good order and discipline of the armed forces. Mm-hmm. If this violates freedom of speech, it's unconstitutional. And that is where we're going. People think of military tribunals as hardcore law-free zones, Lockie. Ask anyone trying to pin the 9/11 guys in Gitmo. Military tribunals aren't pushovers at all. They're hard. They're real protectors they're real courts, real systems, real protections. They need to get a real case if they want to get Kelly. They don't have a case. Basic free speech. It's not inciting any violence. They're literally quoting the law accurately. They don't even cite a particular law. I wish they had. Why would reminding soldiers of the law be considered an attempt to unlawfully sow indiscipline? And if it is, why don't military instructors break that law all the time when they teach the law? No one has ever been called out of retirement in history for this kind of thing. And it's a question mark if this statute even applies to retired officers. Also, the Supreme Court has held many times that constitutional protections for congressional speech and debate apply to anyone in Congress and extend to any official advocacy or policy debate. This is a policy debate they're having.
Okay.
They're advocating. It's advocacy. They're all in Congress. So that is congressional speech. It's protected by the Constitution.
Whoa.
They can't be charged. Oh, not successfully.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. They could try and send a message. As for sedition, the UCMJ has its own definition of sedition as well. Let me tell it to you. It's when someone with intent to cause the overthrow or destruction of lawful civil authority creates, in concert with any other person, revolt, violence, or other disturbance against that authority. The overthrow or the destruction of lawful civil authority is not what they just did. They just recorded a video which was completely gutless. They're not going to overthrow lawful civil authority. It's not a coup.
There's a lot being hung up on the word disturbance there.
Yes. Yeah. So what's happening is Trump is bumping into the limitations of loyalty again. This happens all the time with Trump. He wants to be a full-on dictator. I gave him the benefit of the doubt that he didn't, and that was a mistake. He actually does want to imprison anyone who critiques him. He wants it. He says it all the time. He wants to make the rule of law just his personal plaything. And he's tried to make that happen in this term repeatedly. Ask James Comey. Ask Letitia James. Unfortunately for Trump, there is a trade-off between competence and loyalty. The more loyal the lackey you hire, the less competent they are. That's why you're so disloyal to me.
Yeah, good try, mate. Good try.
And Trump is discovering the limits. He discovered the limits with Lindsay Halligan. Now he's about to find there's limits here too with Pete Hegseth.
Wow.
Pete Hegseth is going to court-martial these people, maybe, Mark Kelly, and he's going to find he's completely incompetent. It's not going to happen. Finally, I leave you with the dumbest reaction. This is from Benny Johnson. He often has the dumbest reaction. Just a few days ago, this was after the shooting in Washington, D.C. this week. Just a few days ago, 6 Democrats claimed President Trump was issuing unlawful orders to the military and that troops must resist. 2 National Guard members were just targeted and shot in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Who by? Who by, Benny?
Well, I'll tell you who it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't a fanboy of shitty viral videos starring Mark Kelly and Elisa Slotkin. I think we'll find, we don't even know the motivation to this day of what that guy was about. I mean, they're just assuming it's terrorism. It could have been anything. But I'm not saying it wasn't terrorism, by the way. I'm just saying we don't know. Whatever it was, I'm pretty sure that he won't be a passionate consumer of semi-viral videos featuring Mark Kelly.
No, he watched the one with 5,000 views.
Okay, now that was a long haul, Lockie, but I think it's really important to back over the fact that there is some really, really bad shit happening in the Caribbean.
That's one way to put it.
and it's legally really concerning. It doesn't get covered enough. I can't tell you how much of a mess their legal reasoning is. And it just gets worse every single day. And that's why I spend so long on this culture war diversion. Because it's about something real. But you'd never know that.
No, it's ultimately extremely disappointing that we had to follow the reaction to the reaction to the backlash to the other instead of the top of the story.
And all the people, who are following the reaction and the reaction to the reaction and the reaction to the reaction, none of them are any wiser about the actual situation, which just doesn't get publicised. Yeah. So I want to publicise both.
The seditious 6 are not getting killed, but someone on a boat out in the Caribbean is going to.
Probably even as we speak, Lockie. That is it for part 2. Part 3 is going to be coming back to you in 2 days' time with the one and only John Barron and a lot more Chaz Unleashed. We'll see you guys then. Until then,
stay
peppy.